Palestine stuff, like the tide is turning, it seems, at least on a people level, like interpersonally.
Mhm.
Whereas, still politicians are slow to get to it. But do you want to tell the story you were telling, Ray, before we started live with your congressperson?
Oh yeah, okay. So I'll start by saying this week has been mid for me. News-wise, it's been bad, but it was also my birthday on Monday, so things have been
Ooh, happy birthday.
okay. Thank you. It's been like a whole birthday week. I, did a stream, raise some money for Palestine on Monday. Yesterday I went out to dinner, and tomorrow, like 10 minutes after I host the second hour on TYT, I'm having a party in my apartment. So, good stuff there. But
10
what I was
minutes?
saying, right, yeah, like because my brother, just really quickly before I tell the actual story I was gonna tell, my brother texted me the other day and he's like, "Are you having a birthday party this year?" And I was like, "I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it." He's like, "Well, me and all my friends are free on this day tomorrow at 7:45." And I'm like, "Well, I guess if you guys, you and all your friends want to have a birthday party for me at my apartment 15 minutes after I finish work, that's fine, but you got to bring me a lot of alcohol." So that's how that came into fruition. But what I was telling you to Dan before we started stream was that, first of all, everybody, if you haven't yet, go to ceasefiretoday.com, request your congresspeople, your elected officials to support a ceasefire.
Shout out
I
Jordan Ural
did
for
that.
doing a lot of legwork on that too.
Fantastic, doing so much work for that. Also to raise awareness about the situation, the genocide in uh, that Saudi Arabia is carrying out in Yemen. There's some amazing person, someone all around fantastic guy.
Yeah,
But
sorry,
yes,
not to like, you know, pat the back of our friend too much, but there was someone online who was like, "Oh, where was all of your attention when there were people dying in Yemen?" And it just like shows the tattoo.
I mean, it's just he is like really the only person in media who you could not levy that allegation against. Like he's someone who's been raising awareness, raising money for years about that. But yeah, so I sent an email to my senator Tammy Duckworth, asking her to support a ceasefire, and this was a few weeks ago. Today I got an email response, very cookie cutter response, from her office. It says it's from her. It's from her office. That is essentially, I'll just read you the first sentence. It says, "Thank you for contacting me about the humanitarian crisis in Gaza following Hamas's shocking terrorist attacks against Israel on October 7th and Israel's subsequent military response. I didn't email you about the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. I emailed you about the genocide happening in Gaza. And you're just going to fucking frame it as Israel's subsequent military response." Fantastic. And then she blames Egypt for not allowing humanitarian aid in, which is just phenomenal. I mean, it has nothing to do with the fact that Israel is bombing the Rafah crossing. It's got nothing to do with that. It's Egypt's fault somehow. And then she rounds it all out by saying that she has always supported a humanitarian pause. A humanitarian pause, which is nothing, which is something invented specifically so that elected officials who get hefty funding from APAC don't have to say the word ceasefire. I mean, I'm sorry, pausing a genocide to give people materials that you are then immediately going to bomb and destroy is nothing. It's fucking nothing. It doesn't fix anything. It was just such an absurd email. And then she just rounds it out by reaffirming her condemnation of Hamas, and saying that we need to continue to support Israel as it, is defending itself. So it was just one of the worst. And she's a war hawk. Tammy Duckworth sucks. She's good on disability rights issues. I respect her for that. I think she's done, I was going to say a lot of legwork in that, but then I realized maybe that was, but anyway, she's done a lot of good work for disability rights, but she's also a fucking horrendous war hawk who, very much supports Israel, has in no uncertain terms said she doesn't support a ceasefire. Fuck her. And I hope some other people are getting maybe better responses from their from their elected officials. But the fact that I got any response at all is saying that they're feeling some kind of pressure. Usually my emails to my my elected officials just go completely fucking unanswered. This, she felt like she had, her office at least felt like they had to put out this lengthy multi-paragraph nothing burger of a response, but they responded, so it's moving somewhat.
Oh,
but
yeah, people in chat going, they can't even believe that Democrats are like this. Like, there's no real opposition to what's going on. Bad Lefty in chat saying, "Oh, but genocide's such an ugly word." This is on the heels of, and you might be thinking, okay, well, what is keeping these Democrats afraid if you're like new to the game of what's going on? And it's this. It's news that AIPAC is planning on spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. Right? No, sorry, I'm wrong. Well, I guess hundreds of thousands of dollars in a cosmic sense, but $100 million to challenge squad members because they have this amount of money to primary. Yeah, you see 7 people on the screen here: AOC, Ilhan Omar, Jamal Bowman. Like, you see all these people here, and they have all this money. They have these unlimited funds to take out whoever they want to.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, how's I know when we were talking about a lot of this, you were just kind of learning and taking a lot of stuff in, but from your perspective, how have you been going around it?
So through efforts of Jordan, we just talked about, I also sent messages to my representative, my local representative, and I got a response back way back on November 3rd. And so while Ray was talking about their experience, I was reading the letter that I got from Joyce Beatty again, and it's fine. It stresses that the terror attack that Hamas pulled off was devastatingly horrible, but that paragraph is sure to use stats to outline how many people died in Israel and then how many hostages were taken from that situation. And if you go down talking about Gaza and Palestine, no stats are used. So while she makes it clear that, like, yeah, this is pretty brutal and messed up and like something needs to happen, it's not really balanced at all. And like, I'm not saying it should be balanced. What's clearly going on with Gazans and Palestinians is far worse based off the toll that is still going on right now. So yeah, I'm just reviewing it, and yeah, some of the stuff seems similar to what Ray was talking about, but it falls short in seeking a true ceasefire. I mean, this was almost 2 weeks ago, so I'm not going to put words in Joyce Beatty's mouth, but at the same time, the efforts and the voices screaming ceasefire are a lot stronger now than they were almost 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I wonder if I did this again, would her tone change a little bit?
I wish. I mean, they're still outside of the they're so outside of the mainstream of this. I have this on screen here. It was a Data for Progress poll. It matches with a lot of what's happened. Even this one's a little bit old. It's from October 18th and 19th. So we're about a month since then. As far as for agreeing for a ceasefire, you have a majority of Republicans, even like over 50% of Republicans, 80% of Democrats, 66% overall somewhat or strongly agree with a ceasefire. And yet you have Democrats going, yeah, like humanitarian pause. Humanitarian pause is one of those moments where you realize that the main occupation for someone who's in office right now, sorry, Ray, it's lawyers. It's people who are like trying to find these like, we can't call it this, but let's call it, the thing adjacent to that. What like legalese phrase can we use? This isn't juice. This is, orange, orange derived beverage. Like, they're doing all of that kind of stuff to obfuscate what is actually going on. And yeah, I find it really disgusting, that also really telling that even when you have this amount of popular support, like voting support, people who are willing to say, I'm willing to vote or maybe even not vote on maybe this issue alone that has just come out of the blue, you would think a normal politician jumps on that and wants to represent that, but the money is so powerful in this situation that they're all in lockstep because they understand they don't want to be in Apex crosshairs. Which and I get it,
Yeah.
but it shows why the squad standing up for themselves at this moment. Yeah, we've been annoyed at other foreign policy moments and domestic policy moments where they could have taken a stand, but damn, is it really great to have them in right now, and damn, is it important that they stay in and that coalition grows.
Right.
I do want to ask, well, I have two things to say. One, Dan, you know that the offshoot of juice is drink. Like, you know that. I know you know it's drink.
I did. I did.
Yeah.
I've been too professional today.
But also, no, Ray, so I'm sitting here considering, like, well, do I respond to Joyce Beatty? And I was wondering if you responded or replied to that message that you got from your senator as well. Because I was like, I'm going to respond, and I don't know if I'm going to get a response to my reply, but I was wondering if you did that also.
I haven't yet. I just, when I turned my computer on to do the stream, saw the response. But I was planning on writing a response, calling the office.
Yeah.
Hoping to get a human being on the phone. Because, like, I've had that job, right? I've worked in a congressional office, doing constituent work, and that shit sucks. But, like, you can tug on people's heartstrings over the phone in a way that you can't in an email. So like,
Okay.
even if it's awkward, like that's what I'm planning on doing, writing out a response, but also just calling. And because the more pressure that's put on them, and the more we can show them how much this matters to us as a voting base, the more, I mean, and Dan just showed the fucking numbers. 80% of Democratic voters want a ceasefire. 80%. What kind of fucking, what other issue do you get those kinds of fucking numbers on?
No other issue.
Nothing.
Medicare for all. I mean, like, not even that, but like kind of, or like, sensible gun control. Like, there are these things
Right.
that I kind of contrast it with domestic policy and how we've seen Democrats slowly start to peel off because they're looking at poll results and they are starting to realize that, okay, maybe we have some wiggle room on something like guns, or maybe we have some wiggle room on something like spending when the earned income tax credit for children gets to be a little bit popular. They market that well, right? You have some wiggle room for supporting unions. Like, there's a bunch of different things here that you see a little bit of support here or there, but it's always these money things. Like, oh, let's have the, let's have a brand new way for a healthcare system, or let's have a brand new way to a Green New Deal, right? It's always these things that require money not going in the hands of rich people, or power being taken away from people who have that power.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't always become an issue politically. We're like, oh, even though the numbers say this, it's actually better for my political career to do the exact opposite.
Well, I mean, even with that said, and I think you're nailing that aspect of things. It kind of sucks that if it's, I don't want to say, if it's not popular or it's not going to be a part of your re-election campaign, then you're just simply not going to do it. You're going to ignore what's going on. I get there's an aspect of governance that comes by saying, okay, well, I need to reflect my constituents. But some of these people, especially my representative, because this is in and around of Columbus, which is very blue, you didn't know what we would want before calling, like a lot of celebrities or much of social media was calling for a ceasefire. Like, you didn't, this is a reactionary response instead of just like knowing ahead of time. Again, I get it that people want to represent the needs and the wants of their constituents, but like, I didn't need anything reactionary in this position.
Yeah, there is that point. That's a really good point. That like, people, we understand why, given the context of this situation, that being how nuclear hot this is a political topic and how many careers have been destroyed by verbal missteps in either direction over this.
Yeah.
But you still, there's a part of you humanely where it's like, another statistic I can't show, but I have on the top of my head. I think the last time there was a count, we crossed the 10,000 dead Palestinians mark already, right?
That was last week.
Yeah, Israel's supposed goal is to get rid of Hamas, to send a message. Hamas has about, reports are iffy on all these different numbers, but 30 to 40,000, if that. I think that number could even be lower, like 20, 25,000. Somewhere around 4,000 or more children are dead. Like, to me, the math isn't mathing. Where if the goal is to get rid of Hamas, and you're seeing a military that their response is to kill 10,000, largely civilians, like, to so slowly come out, even as slowly as Bernie did with the humanitarian pause phrase, or even as slowly as some other folks are coming to publicly be comfortable with saying a ceasefire. It's like, what was your number? I was thinking this the same thing during COVID-19, and then sadly I never got an answer with a lot of people because the number kept going up and nothing changed. But like, yeah, that's a thing I'm really thinking about too.
Yeah, and that's an important point because like, what is the number of obviously we know that it's somewhere upwards of 15,000, right? For these politicians who don't support a ceasefire, for the people gleefully chanting at that pro-genocide rally, no ceasefire. They're willing to accept more than 15,000, almost all civilians dead. They're willing to accept 5,000 children murdered. That's acceptable to them. Thousands upon thousands of bombs dropped, snipers shooting people too close to windows in hospitals, turning off the electricity, the water, food supplies. That's acceptable. I mean, and for fuck's sake, like, at what point does the Biden administration have to admit that they are peddling lies, that they are just uncritically accepting the lies of the state of Israel? I mean, for fuck's sake, and CNN and so many other media outlets too, but I mean, God, they showed like 4 guns, and that was their evidence that Al-Shifa Hospital was a terrorist hub, that it was the central command of Hamas. Most Americans have more guns than that in their fucking basement. Like, it was absurd. And it was the fact that they went in first, obviously planted that shit, and then let CNN come in. CNN was just like, wow, amazing. Look at all of these, no tunnels, by the way, which is what had been promised to them by the IDF. But look at all of these weapons, all these guns that were being stored next to an MRI machine. I'm sorry, who's believing this shit? What kind of credulous rube do you have to be to believe that shit? Like, not a modicum of critical thinking ability.
For folks who don't know, there's just a story I read like a week or two ago of someone who died in America because they brought their gun in a medical office with an MRI machine.
Yes.
and it discharged.
Yes. Like, the most American shit I ever heard in my life.
That is the most American. Yes. Yes, the only thing that could have made it more American is if they had like a Coca-Cola in the other pocket. But yes, that is, man. So Ray, going off what you just said, I think, oh gosh, I should be better at saying stuff without like remembering exactly. Maybe you all remember this, but there was a hostage situation in a hospital, supposedly, and they just shot down the hospital. Like, they just started bombing this joint. And they said the reason why they did so because, like, well, I mean, Hamas had hostages in there,
right?
And it's like, well, if there were hostages in there, then why did you just start killing people willy-nilly? Then, if there were hostages, or are you lying? And going back to what you were asking, Ray, about like, when are we going to know the truth, or when is like the Biden administration going to actually admit to like the lies that are being peddled to them? It's going to be like the weapons of mass destruction thing that George Bush did a couple of years ago, where he finally came out and said, like, y'all, there were none.
Right.
So like, I guess Ray, like 12 or 15 years from now, we're gonna be like, yeah, that hostage thing, that was overblown. That was the tunnels and stuff.
I think we're speed running it because, like, just as in real time you have there's propaganda. I mean, I don't want to be like both sides of the propaganda thing, because one is like the IDF, which has so much of a footprint compared to anything that Hamas could possibly be doing.
Right.
Also, there's the point that the IDF is probably one of the biggest propaganda forces for Hamas, but that's another point to be made. I'm trying to find the article. Oh yes, here it is, right here. This was my favorite. They had the IDF had said, look, we found a list of Hamas hostage guards on the wall right here. And then people just like go on the internet and respond to this. And they have the hubris to present this on the internet for worldwide scrutiny. And then, some of these things have been stuff like, I can't understand, like, oh, this is an accent thing. Oh, their grammar is really bad. This doesn't make sense. They even sound like an Israeli speaking Arabic. This guy's just pointing to a calendar.
Right.
Like, he's just pointing.
Monday through Friday. Like, people read and speak Arabic, man. Like, how long did you think you were going to be able to get away with this lie?
Like, I saw a closer up version of it. I'm sorry I don't have it. But, like, even I knew it was a calendar. Like, it was just, it had numbers. It had, like, dates. It had, like, blocks missing for day. It was 7 days in a week. Like, how dumb do you think we are? Like, there these examples all of the time, and it's really pathetic. It would be pathetic would be the word if it wasn't the fact that there's so much deliberate murder of innocents happening.
Mm-hmm. They had that video that they posted, like I was saying, was supposed to be the evidence against the hospital, that it was a terror hub. One of the confiscated items on the table that they were displaying was a box of dates. A box of dates. Like, that was something that you were trying to pass off as an explosive. That's food, bro. That's fucking food.
Oh my
and then
gosh.
they
Depending on
also
your diet.
had a very
High in fiber,
conveniently they had a very convenient, like, open laptop that they somehow knew the password to. It was unlocked. They had to delete the video because people were pointing out that that's an IDF issued laptop. So they re-uploaded the video with the laptop blurred, still asserting the same thing. Like, it is so flagrant and in our faces. Like, they genuinely think that anyone consuming that is just the lowest common denominator on God's green earth. And to be honest, they've gotten away with a lot of insane claims in the past. So it really feels like they're just seeing how far they can push it. I mean, the copy of Mein Kampf in the kid's bedroom, that it was annotated. They supposedly found it in rubble, pristine copy.
It was beautiful. Yeah. So beautiful that it looked like it just came out of an Amazon box that was like bubble wrapped and everything like that.
Right.
Well, and another thing about that book was, isn't Israel controlling for the most part what goes in and out of Palestine and Gaza? So how would they have gotten that book in the first place?
That's what I said.
So
they were like, they're going concrete to rebuild infrastructure. No. Arabic translation of Mein Kampf? Yes.
yeah. But Dan, going back to something you said earlier, the propaganda machine on both sides of this thing. And I hate both sides of things, but it's difficult to scroll through social media or news outlets to see what is true or not, because based off what's going on in the world and my basic understanding of things, I can't actively fact check like I do what goes on in American government. So I have to be careful about what I read and what I look into, because yes, there's a lot of false information out there, and it's kind of hard to see what's true or not.
Oh, I'm just sorry. I was just seeing in chat. Absolutely, Citron was asking where Bam was. Bam has decided to go on strike. He's SAG-AFTRA, so we're going to have to. No one's scabbing here. This is just Bam's personal SAG-AFTRA. We are in solidarity with him.
Didn't the strike end, I thought?
Oh, it's a little bit. I don't know if you've been hearing some things internally, but it may not ratify the deal they've been getting. There's some people who think that they didn't negotiate hard.
Yeah, I was gonna say the deal was lackluster, to say the least, for the way it was heralded when it came out. But good for them. Good for Bam.
No, we're not gonna do it's a Thursday show. I don't feel like doing a show on Thanksgiving. I'm going to be spoiling my niece and nephew. But the Thursday after that is going to be my personal Thanksgiving because that is going to be when Ron DeSantis and Gavin Newsom debate.
Let's go.
You're all invited. But to what Jeff you were just saying, I feel like as we've gone throughout the past decade and continuing, it's gotten harder and harder to use social media for any kind of media purpose. And I totally understand that. Elon Musk in the past, especially with Twitter, which, flawed but essential news source considering how connected it was initially to newsmakers and people who are on the ground and vetted, trusted sources, has now become an unusable mess of actual anti-Semitism to the point where, and so like, yeah, Jeff, you're talking about Elon Musk like destroying a platform. We can talk about how deliberately that is or isn't. I think there's a little column A, little column B when it comes to Elon Musk and incompetence. But there was the whole Charles Weber, who's this like Jewish conservative, which is amazing. He tweeted yesterday, I'm quoting here, to the cowards hiding behind the anonymity of the internet and posting Hitler was right. You got something you want to say, why don't you say it to our faces? And then there was this other guy who's clearly saying, okay, Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of dialectical hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. I'm deeply disinterested in giving the tiniest shit now about Western Jewish populations, coming to the disturbing realization that those hordes of minorities that support flooding their country don't exactly like them too much. You want the truth said to your face, there it is. Really fast, I'm just going to break down that the pushing dialectical hatred against whites is the trope that Jewish people control things like Black Lives Matter or any sort of movement to bring in immigrants and assimilate immigrants into wealthier countries. Countries are people that are coming from countries that have been destroyed by European and American colonialism in the past several centuries. And then now this guy's saying, oh, well, now that Jewish people in Israel see that, again, in this guy's view, that Palestinians are a bunch of dirty people who are savages who want to kill them, I don't care about it because him as this Breaking Bat guy, as an anti-Semite and a white nationalist, has been arguing for it and doesn't mind it happening to you because he feels he's been arguing. It's a ridiculous thing. And you might wonder why I've been going on this tangent when Jeff started this with like, oh, social media is getting harder to understand. We have folks like Elon Musk who don't care about these platforms and they're controlling these things. Elon Musk has been made a lot of major algorithmic decisions when it comes to Twitter, which is why this even showed up in people's feeds. And it showed up in more people's feeds because Elon Musk responded to it himself by saying, you have said the actual truth.
Just insane.
The ADL, I just want to finish. The ADL unjustly attacks the majority of the West, despite the majority of the rest supporting the Jewish people and Israel. This is because they cannot, by their own tenets, criticize the minority groups who are their primary threat. It is not right and it needs to stop. First of all, the conflation of Jewish people and Israel, because anti-Semitism is going up, unfortunately. Islamophobia is going up, also unfortunately. A lot of people are against Israel's actions, but there's a difference between Israelis and Jewish people and Zionists, and there can be some overlap, but these are distinctly different things. You'll notice that anti-Semites don't make that distinction. And if that wasn't, you have said the actual truth to be enough. Elon Musk says, this is because the ADL cannot criticize the minority groups who are their primary threat. This guy runs a social media platform, y'all.
It's insane too, because I mean, all of it is just not true, but that is a verifiably false statement. Like if you're talking about anti-Semitic hate crimes, we do have data, we do have stats on who the perpetrators disproportionately of that are. They're white supremacists. They're the very people who are liking this tweet are the primary purveyors of anti-Semitism, actual anti-Semitism. So like, and also Elon Musk doesn't give a shit about anti-Semitism. Like, and his vendetta against the ADL is personal. right? It's deeply personal. It has fuck all to do with like, I mean, and I'm sure Elon Musk is one of these people who thinks that there's a white genocide going on. Which what the fuck
Oh
would
yes,
that what would that even mean? I don't know.
he's South African. He hates. I
Yeah,
mean, he has banned people who, you know, the South African version of "From the River to the Sea" is that chant that one South African party does that you could translate to
yeah,
"kill the Boer" or like "kill the white settler." And you know, I don't think that's an exact analog because I think there's a large difference from let's have people be free all across the land to kill the Boer. Like, I'm not gonna die on that hill.
right.
But it's that sort of like anti. Oh, we are the baddies, but whether we're seen as the baddies or not, we want to maintain our system of power and you know still maintain our air of politeness that we use to enforce a system of oppression.
Yeah.
And we, like people like Elon Musk, are very, very sensitive to anything that might topple that hierarchy at all.
Yeah, yeah. I would say like the kill the boar is akin to like death to America. Is it like you know, more metaphorical than like actually just go out and start you know, killing any American or any white person that you see? Yes. I understand why, you know, optics wise, but also, you know, fine with it. Fine with it.
This Sunday, there are going to be a bunch of people saying "fuck Colorado State" or whatever. We, in the words of a lot of right wing pundits, seriously, not literally, right? Like we all understand. Like I remember explaining. I broke through to someone who was like not understanding why during Black Lives Matter there are people who were complaining about the actions of white people and making it sound like it was all white people. I was talking to this white lady and she was like, "Oh, well, this doesn't sound bad. Like I know I'm not like that. People know I'm not like that." And I just was
Yeah.
like, "Have you ever been out with your girlfriends and you're talking about just some dumb shit a man does, and then you and your girlfriends are talking about like how they know other men who have done that same thing, and so you're talking about like, oh yeah, all men are like this. You know, you all hate those fucking men. You know that." And then you go home to your husband who you love and you can't stop complimenting about and you like, you know, brag about to everyone. It's like that. Okay? It's exactly
Right.
like that. You we have the word literally that really doesn't mean the word literally anymore. Like we use exaggeration has changed and morphed language to the point where you really need context. Not really in the Elon Musk point. Like there's no point in that chain where it's like he's not a Nazi. He's not. He's like so there was a thing in San Francisco. There's APEC, so a lot of Asian Pacific leaders. Xi Jinping met with Joe Biden up in San Francisco. There's supposed to be a couple of big events with big CEOs. Elon Musk was at the one with some big tech CEOs meeting with Xi Jinping, and that was a more of a private, you know, dinner. Cameras saw it as a private dinner. Elon Musk was supposed to be a guest speaker at another, you know, summit type thing. Apparently, at last minute, he decided to cancel. And he offered to do it apparently, you know, via Zoom or whatever. But I think wisely the APEC people went out and said, you know what, we had an agreement, and in this agreement, it would be in person and not virtual. So you know what, you clean up your house, buddy. We got it from here. Thank you for your service.
Right. I did enjoy the picture of Gavin Newsom handing him the Golden State Warriors jersey. Everyone in that picture looked so thrilled to be there. It was a highlight of my day thus far.
I saw that. Let me try to get it.
So yeah, I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
It was good.
it's on the same day that California loses yet another professional sports team, so probably good. Just one photo.
Yeah, when are the A's leaving? Is it 2026 or 2028?
I don't know what year actually, but it's official.
Oh, it's definitely official. Yeah.
We've lost everything. There's yeah. I mean, people didn't know the Golden State Warriors played in Oakland, and then they moved their arena to San Francisco because rich people. And then it's
Get
truly
across that bridge.
and then there's the Oakland Raiders, but like any city the Oakland Raiders go is like trouble. Like, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that they used to be the Los Angeles Raiders, and the reason why Los Angeles kept rejecting having football teams is because every time we did win a Super Bowl, the city would go up in flames. Like there would just be riots. And so they went up to Oakland, and Oakland Raiders fans were honestly fine. It was just a culture. It worked out. But they left to go to Vegas. Oakland A's are going to Vegas. I don't know. But this is good. This is good. We all
Wait, real quick. Can I ask, does LA care about the Chargers or the Rams? Even though the Rams just won a Super Bowl a couple seasons ago, does LA even care?
LA are bad fans. Like, we're just not a good city of fans because we have so many teams in so many leagues, often multiple teams of each, and oftentimes they're, good or have like a decent background to them. So fans go to games expecting wins, but like people in LA do the same thing when they go out, which is all like dress up and look at their phones all the time. And so the fans aren't good. They will boo like perfectly good teams. Like the year that LeBron James run with the Lakers, I remember going to a Lakers game and they were down 10 points the fourth quarter, and there were people in Lakers jerseys booing like people on the Lakers. Like we're a fucking shit team. We have people from San Diego or wherever the Chargers have been, or from St. Louis or whoever the Rams have been, who like these teams, and yeah, exactly. During the Super Bowl, everyone was in Rams gear because we're the bandwagon city. But yeah, that's why I like all the obscure LA teams. I also insult all the football teams because they used to not even play in LA proper. They're all playing in the suburbs. So I call them like the Carson Chargers, the Inglewood Rams.
Gotcha. Ray, I'm not even going to ask you about the Bears because Justin Fields is a Buckeye and I love him dearly. So don't.
I don't watch.
Good.
Not American football, at least. I don't know anything that's going on. Sometimes it's on at the bar when I'm there to play bingo, but very much in the background. And my family, actually, my dad was a diehard Browns fan. So.
Really?
Yeah. Sad thing to be a diehard Cubs fan at times when the Cubs were very not good. I'm wearing a Sammy Sosa jersey, my dad's Sammy Sosa jersey right now, and a diehard Browns fan. And to be a Browns fan at almost any point in history, it's been a very difficult
yes.
thing.
Yes.
So.
Yes, there's a lot of Browns fans in Ohio that struggle year to year all the time. It's kind of like a rite of passage at this point.
Do we want to go through more, especially as we're seeing a lot of protests here? There have been a lot of people, Zionists, Republicans, Democrats, who have been trying to portray a lot of the demonstrations as worse than they are. And then you've had bad skirmishes on, people who think they're pro-Israel or people who think they're pro-Palestinian. They're definitely not pro-human rights. These people who are taking it to violence. But, there was Congressman Brad Sherman from California. I don't think anywhere from where I live. I don't recognize. But he was talking about how there were anti-war protesters at the DNC, and apparently he was spreading the lie that I was seeing in a lot of places, that protesters were pepper spraying the police when it was definitely the other way around. So, without further ado,
Yesterday, there were over 200,000 pro-Israel demonstrators with a permit, entirely peaceful. And here you have a demonstration less than 1,000th as large that's also getting publicity. And it's getting publicity because their willingness to attack police, as they did with pepper spray, is a force multiplier. A few demonstrators willing to attack police getting a fair amount of publicity, whereas the amount of publicity for 200,000 peaceful demonstrators proportionately less.
And I just want to make a note here that we don't know exactly who was responsible for the pepper spray, but as we continue to report on this story, we'll learn more. Congressman Brad Sherman, I do thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't do your job. It's a good thing you didn't do your job and figure out who was responsible for the pepper spray before you let him go on there and lie. That's great. Thank you for that. And then she doubled down on it too. After firsthand accounts, fucking photographic evidence that it was the police who used pepper spray, not the protesters. She had the gall to double down. Like CNN, and they're doing this in service of what? CNN has the worst numbers they've ever had. Worse than every other cable news network right now. Like, what are we doing this for?
I think it's in service to supposed moderates and centrists, possibly. So it's possible that I hate watch Fox more than I ever glance at CNN. Did they ever go back and correct what they just missed?
No, you never hear. I mean, I'll be honest. I haven't watched cable news in a long time, but you know, in news, when you're doing 24-hour news and the incentive is to get on air quickly, you make mistakes. You trip up, especially, I mean, we know during TYT and you don't have like a prompter. Like there's some times you make mistakes, and it's weird in clips because the clip might be up and you can't edit it once it's up. And so you can't add a correction or whatever. Maybe you can add it in the description, but not as many people see it. CNN, like, yeah, you're airing 24/7 and a lot of those people are watching. Sometimes they do corrections, but for stuff like that, no.
Yeah.
And people might be going, oh, well, that news was just breaking. Maybe they didn't have that information. I'm looking at videos from last night from MSNBC, from local news that was all saying officers pepper sprayed, like police pepper spray pro-Palestinian protesters in DC. That's what MSNBC said. There was one place in Washington, D.C., WUSA 9, that said officers pepper sprayed and punched at illegal protests. That makes them seem like they were the ones pepper sprayed and punched. But, like, it's ridiculous when you have video.
Right. And I mean, like, I saw so many people arguing with Dave Weigel, who was there for reporting on it for Semaphore, saw it with his own fucking eyes. And they were like trying to dispute him with the accounts of people who were not there. I mean, this was somebody who was fucking present, but I'm sending this in the chat. Maybe we can pull up. It was my favorite interaction, my favorite back and forth on this subject. And I think it really sort of nails down what political discussions in America are like at this point. Just the dumbest comment made, like, very confidently. I've been going back to this all day to give myself a laugh.
Let me.
But
it's taking me a minute. Let me.
But, like, yeah, I mean, there was people at the time reporting correctly on this, and CNN was not doing that. Absolutely could have corrected him, or even at some point later in that show. But yeah, so this was someone was just explaining why multiple police officers were pepper sprayed. This person says the pepper spray is almost certainly blowback from the cops spraying protesters. I mean, literally blowback. And this person replies, terrorism is blowback for America's foreign policy. How is your thinking any different? It's just the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Like, they're so close to getting the point. It's like they're shouting the correct thing.
Like, it's true. You're right. Terrorism is blowback for America's foreign policy. But he meant blowback like the wind blew it back in their faces. And then to say, like, but also, let's say that's not like what that person was saying. Let's say that he was saying they're pepper spraying the police for being brutal, and this person is like, how is that any different than justifying terrorism? Like, come on, man.
Okay.
Okay, buddy. I think that, like, pepper spraying a couple cops and, I don't know, 9/11 are two vastly different things in the grand scheme of the world.
Here's some video for the record of what was actually happening. As you see here, the protesters are pepper spraying the police, who are just absolutely helpless. Oh, that's not happening? The protesters are standing where they are, their right to protest. Maybe they're not supposed to be there. Maybe they're trespassing, or, oh, heavens me. Everyone remembers how heroic it was when John McSomething or other got the permit for the Boston Tea Party to make sure that was something that we could respect. But thankfully, that John Brown got that permit for John Brown's rebellion. It's always these people who are like, "Oh, you can't block traffic. What if people need to?" That's not the way you protest. The way you protest government that you don't agree with is by using that bureaucracy that we constantly complain about to get a permit, and then you get a petition, and then you get a number of signatures, and then you can protest. Like, these people are so unserious. But yeah, they're pulling the protesters off of this place. They're trying to yank them down the stairs.
Oh shit! Someone just got thrown. People getting thrown down the stairs. People getting thrown down the stairs. Yo!
There's a lot going on, but you definitely see cops pushing people around, throwing them, like down the stairs.
It's also that one of his contentions was that they were trying to enter the building. They clearly have their backs turned towards the building, so unless they were all moonwalking in, they clearly are not trying to enter the fucking building.
Oh my god.
Brad Sherman continued it by tweeting, "Was just evacuated from the DNC after pro-terrorist anti-Israel protesters grew violent." Some of the folks who were standing on that staircase, because they were talking about it afterwards, were Jewish people who were calling for a ceasefire.
Yeah.
But anti-Israel. Pepper spraying police officers and attempting to break into the building. There was no pepper spray deployed. It appears there was no pepper spray deployed by protesters. It was deployed by police officers, by most reports, and their backs were turned against the building. Thankful to the police officers who stopped them and for helping me get my colleagues to safety. Thankful to the police officers who committed the same type of brutality against citizens protesting against an unjust government as Israel is doing to its own citizens who are protesting the actions that are going on in Gaza and the West Bank right now. It's so, that's the point that I just had right now. The realization that, if Brad Sherman had the ability to and the political will to, he would be one of those stand back and stand by Trump guys. But this is supposedly a Democrat from California. I got to figure out what. We got to get him out.
Oh gosh. I just got and Dan, you alluded to this when we first started that I remember saying, I'm going to sit back and shut the heck up and listen for a while because this is out of my league and I need to start practicing before I start speaking. And I need to start listening before I say anything. And boy, the way you just broke that down, just yet another reminder of wow, I need to start listening to other people because you just put together things that I didn't even consider, especially from parts of the world that I'm not even thinking of right now, which are domestic. There are things going on in America that I'm I can't even think about because of what's going on around the country, not around the country, around the world, where multiple genocides are happening at once.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing how, I don't know, what last time I was here, 4 weeks? I shifted from okay, I got to start thinking globally. And then I'm thinking globally. I'm who is this politician that Dane is talking about? Because we got that guy. That guy's got to go.
Right.
That guy's got to get out. Or at least I need to look into this myself because this sounds awful. I don't know. Day to day, I just feel inadequate. I feel hopeless and helpless. Whatever I say and do is going to be awful. I rarely tweet anything anymore because that's just a cesspool of nastiness and ugliness and everything like that. And I can't tell what's going on from day to day. But at the same time, I'm saying this to both of you because of what y'all do. I got to do something. Like somebody has to say something. I don't know. But like, there's so much misinformation out there. There's so much nastiness, and I'm like, it gets daunting day to day. But whatever instability I'm going through right now, there are clearly people people in Palestine that are going through way worse. So I got to do more is the point of all of this right now. I got to do more because, again, what you just said, Dan, I was like, oh, shoot, I haven't even considered that. So I got to do a little bit more to increase my understanding of what the heck is going on around here.
I mean,
Yeah, I've never heard of that guy either. Just to be fair.
Yeah, because that was stupid. I got to look into that because that was dumb.
Yeah, shout out Sachi for putting Brad Sherman of California's 32nd on the map for me. Let's see where that is. 32nd district. That's because they just changed all the districts around. So oh, look at you. Okay, you know it makes so much sense. He's covering the San Fernando Valley, Calabasas, and the Boo. He's Malibu's congressman. So yeah, it's a very wealthy, powerful enclave there. I think he might even be the Kardashians congressperson. So yeah, I can see why there's a lot of Bel Air and Beverly Hills, and it's still really sad to see. But it just goes to show, like, the big thing in Los Angeles is the major freeway that goes through downtown was hit in a major fire, and a lot of people are taking public transportation now, which is finally Los Angeles. And the big thing people are saying is, oh wow, there are all these homeless people who are here. The city's doing nothing about them. Can't we just kill them? Like, in no uncertain terms, they're like, can't these people? We can't have these. There's like tiny houses that they're having for people who are unhoused, where they're very close to drug treatment centers, and people are saying we can't have these in our neighborhoods. Move them out to the desert. Don't give them homes. They need to be given treatment. They need to earn the little tiny homes, because that's what I heard someone say with a bunch of different followers who's been repeated on local news. They need to earn their homes, right? Like this. We talk about it being about human rights. Ultimately, that's why this situation in Gaza is not a complex issue. But you look at how human rights is applied even to domestic issues, and you look at people going, yeah, fuck that homeless guy who lives in my district, who may voted for me, may not, maybe into politics, maybe not, maybe going through some struggle through their lives. I mean, definitely probably are if they're unhoused. And instead of going, oh damn, it's all these unhoused people who caused the freeway to catch fire, it's like, oh, is there something we can do to solve this problem or help this problem? I don't know. If only there were a politician in the room, Mr. Brad Sherman, to solve these kinds of things. Like, it's
all right.
The disregard for human rights that I've learned from a lot of people, especially Democrats, over the past month or so, terrible. Before you speak, Ray, I want your cat to get some. I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah, she's got a lot to say. She really just wants to show her tail off. But now that you said that, she's walking back over here.
Oh wait, let me get Delilah Mercury. There she is.
Yes.
Lounger. Oh my goodness. Stop rubbing your face all over the microphone, lady. Ow, she bit me. Go away. She's gone now. I'm sorry. But what I was going to say was, in Chicago, it's been like really difficult the past few, because it's interesting. We have, right, like a very left-wing council. We have a lot of very DSA endorsed aldermen. We have a very left-wing progressive mayor in Brandon Johnson. And they just passed, that's going to be on the ballot for us in March, the ability to vote to increase taxes on real estate transactions over $1 million to fund to increase funding to combat homelessness, which is fantastic. But we also have right now this horrific crisis for refugees, for asylum seekers here in Chicago, where they're sleeping in tents outside. In tent cities is where they're housing these migrants. And Chicago, you know, people who live here, Chicagoans, are protesting the migrants. They're protesting these people who are living in fucking tents. They're sleeping on the floor at O'Hare Airport, right? There was a huge story a few months ago about police officers raping underage migrant girls who were staying in police stations. And Chicagoans are protesting the migrants, not the mistreatment of these people, but the migrants themselves, because they don't like seeing these tents. Like, and I can't, it infuriates me because I live right next to one of these tent cities, right? I walk past it every day. It breaks my heart. I see all these kids outside playing around these tents, mothers holding babies, and just knowing that they have to fucking sleep in these tiny tents. It's getting cold here in Chicago. Thankfully, this past week it's been unseasonably warm, but it already snowed here, right? We already got like over an inch of snow, and these families, these children were sleeping outside, and it seems like there's a good section of the population here. Of course, a lot of it is like outside agitators, you know, being inspired by people like John Cass. Anyone familiar with Chicago politics maybe knows what I'm talking about. If not, that's fine. You'd never learn who that is. But like to protest these people, I mean, one of our older women was physically assaulted by these like right-wing protesters when she was going to address what her solutions for, you know, getting real housing for these individuals were. Like, it's so depressing to just see this level of depravity in these people willing to dehumanize their fellow man, right? Their readiness to do so. And like, without a second thought, it's despicable. Disheartening.
So, yeah, because we police are going to be sweeping encampments that we have here. I was reminded of one happening at Here Park is going to be swept in 40 days. They gave them 14 days. They gave them a 30-day notice. As you just said, Ray, a lot of people don't like to see the encampments, the tent cities. And in my mind, I'm like, if you have enough vigor or vitriol or at least effort or energy to yell and scream about something, why aren't you yelling at the politicians and the government to do something about it? And not in a get rid of them, but like, how about help them then? It's the same energy. It's the same energy, but one helps people and one hurts people. And you're using your energy to say, I would rather not see you less than a human person. You're right. It's heartbreaking. I see one. There's an encampment on the way to work each morning. I have to get a normal human job because I'm no longer with TVIC, but that's another thing. And I see it. I know it's going to get swept shortly here. And I'm glad that it's been unseasonably warm here too. But yeah, what are they going to do? We know the one I'm talking about, you would have to be familiar with Columbus neighborhoods, but for people who would watch this and know, Franklinton is possibly the most impoverished neighborhood in Columbus. And if it's not number one, it's top three, easy. And the encampment I'm speaking of is in Franklinton, right down the street, in between, actually on either ends of what I'm talking about, there are new $750,000 apartments on one side of Broad Street. And on the other side of Broad Street, we have our casino. So right in the middle there is an encampment. We know we can do something about it. You go to Broad Street. Yep, you're Franklinton. Go to Broad Street. I'll show you exactly where it is.
Which one? Is it Highway 62? It's not showing me.
It's
this one.
40.
Yeah.
40. Yeah. And is that 315? Yeah, that's 315. So go to,
yes.
I was about to, yeah, so that's 315. Go west or left. Yeah, right. Oh, wait, maybe we went too far. We went too far. Okay, zoom in, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, zoom in.
Cody Park.
Yeah. Oh no. So it's literally on, like, if you go to back to Broad Street, which is 40, it is, I think, what is that? Is that Glenwood Avenue?
Yes, in the middle.
Yes. Yes, I believe it's right there. And it's like on a near a railroad track. And like, what are they going to do? Yeah, look at that.
Damn. We literally
No.
just look across the street.
Yes, that's what I'm. Yeah.
America's so funny. America's so good. Like, let's go.
Hold on, let me make. Yeah, baby. Hold on, let me make sure I get this right, because yeah, it's the disparity between, you know, the haves and the have-nots is like nuts.
Bro.
Right. It's literally marked by one street.
What did they say? Breathtaking views? If you walk out at night, it's breathtaking. Like, what's going on? Oh man, like, but it goes towards.
Yeah, so
this. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was about to say, so the one I'm talking, there's one at Here Park that is not like necessarily close to here, but that's coming in 14 days. But there's another one. There's another encampment above the railroad tracks, really close to there, and like you swing in and out of that neighborhood, and you see money, wealth, but then you see the throes of poverty, like right next to one another. There's no reason why we couldn't do something. We're getting close. And depending on when this was taken, it's on the encampment would be on top there. And we have the resources to do something about it. And instead of advocating for those resources to be used in order to help these people would rather just the little likelihood that they have as far as like a living situation to be thrown away, to be just destroyed. And it's sick. It's hard. It's sickening, and yet another place where I'm like, I feel like there's nothing I can do. Like, what am I supposed to do about this? And so that's just the reality of where we are. It's a reality of where we are, to where a very outspoken governor would rather sweep away the blight that is the homeless situations that America has created in order to not embarrass itself in front of diplomats from other countries, and knowing that he could do something more. He comes off as progressive until he talks about the impoverished. That's when the true him really comes out.
I mean, just in one sentence to respond to that, the part where you said sweeping the streets just to save face for foreign dignitaries. I mean, I'm going to show you a picture of Market Street, the main thoroughfare in San Francisco, downtown by where they had all the diplomats. And let me tell you, these black fences by the sidewalk are not something you tend to... San Francisco is not known for its black fences down the main street on downtown. That's not where the cable cars are, actually. No, but... This is how we do it. Let's just move it aside. Let's not deal with the problem. Let's not... People... I mean, a lot of this is just pure hatred. We started this conversation kind of talking about people's humanity overall, and like a lot of this does go to pure hatred at a certain point. But you would have people who I think would be a little bit less anxious about providing services for the unhoused if they too didn't feel like they are, just one step away from themselves being in financial precarity, right? Like, if you're... I don't think this goes all the way too far, and I can get to why in a moment, but if you... The natural thing is, why are you going to give them a house? Why are you going to give them all of these handouts? Well, I'm struggling. Or, like, how come I'm working and they're not working? Like, you create this resentment that you get by not having programs and not having just basic guarantees for these things, where people feel as though, because you're struggling to get up to where, like, you're treading water while everyone else is swimming, and some folks, rich folks, are like in the deep end and they're doing backstrokes. Like, just because we want to give the person who is treading water and about to drown a life jacket, people around them who are swimming are like, hey, why do they get a life jacket? Let's drown him. Like, just drown him. Let him drown. Like,
Right.
it's a very weird way of thinking of, oh, because let's make sure everyone can swim, at least swim, right? I'm not saying you could learn to go like freestyle in the ocean. Let's get everyone to swim. And if you're having a harder time swim, let's get you some floaties. There's something, right? We don't have we don't have a society that does that because we hate universal programs. But it goes to that connection of universality and humanity, whether it's people who are unhoused or people abroad who are being victims of our military-industrial complex. Not to get too depressing.
Or if it's someone like George Santos who's being unfairly persecuted for being, an iconic gay archetype. Like he is my favorite politician who's ever existed. I think he should be the president of the United States.
Protect George Santos at all.
Protect George Santos. I think him and I should get gay married. That's when two gay people marry each other, right? That's what gay marriage is.
Well, the issue with that, the issue is apparently what was it? So yeah, George Santos was found to have used campaign funds for Sephora, Botox, and OnlyFans.
I want to know what accounts he was sub to on OnlyFans. I need to know.
There was some.
I'm sorry. This is true? This is the thing that happened?
Oh,
it was in court filings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
official court filings.
Like 35, like a Family Guy episode's worth of time after he got into office, he was immediately under like financial investigations because everything he said was a fucking lie.
Said one Family Guy runtime.
22 minutes after taking the oath of office, there were court proceedings ready to go.
Without the commercial breaks. That's amazing.
Right.
Hulu,
I did not know
ads.
this.
I saw someone it could have been a joke, Twitter makes no sense, but friend of the show Cosmopolitics posted some OnlyFans model who said that George Santos subscribed to her and paid her.
Oh, she was definitely lying.
Okay,
she was definitely lying.
Good.
She was like, I rated his dick. I'm like, this is gay. If there's one thing I'm sure that George Santos isn't lying about, it's that he's gay. I believe he was married to a woman at one point. He could be bisexual. He's never made that claim, but I'm like, that is one thing that I've never doubted that came out of his mouth. Because we all know a lying gay.
I read George Santos as like a drunk switch, if that makes sense.
He's just so fantastic. I mean, just the things he chooses to lie about. A tweet from him is at the top of my Twitter feed right now because, of course, it is because I love him to death. He has the Israeli flag in his bio right now, and also the Star of David, which is great because he's not Jewish. He's lied and said he is. He's lied and said his grandparents were Holocaust survivors
in 9/11.
He lied and said his mom died in 9/11. She died in 2018. So unless it was on 9/11 2018.
Both of which were Holocausts.
Right.
Both of 9/11 and just the entire year 2018.
His mom was the first person to die in the Holocaust and also in 9/11. But like he today said he's not running for re-election, which is really sad for me. And he said he went on Fox News to talk about this decision and to talk about the allegations. And what I think is, I don't know if you have this, Dan, but it was the best clip I've ever seen.
I think
and maybe the first time.
Is it Fox Business?
Yeah, it was Fox Business.
Okay, I have at least part of.
It's a short clip. It's just something she says under her breath about him after he denies knowing what OnlyFans is.
Awesome. I hope this is it. Let's try.
This is it.
Okay.
Speaking of peel, is it true that you have an OnlyFans page and you can peel a banana with your feet?
I don't have one, and it's, you know, I'll indulge you this. I just discovered what OnlyFans was about 3 weeks ago when it was brought up in a discussion in my office.
What do you think?
And I was very...
No, I need to unpack this look because I understand why Fox Business gets the views, but I think this is a little bit too much.
in my office.
What do you think?
And I was oblivious to the whole concept.
Okay, I totally see what you mean, Ray, because that's
You gotta play the last 2 seconds. You gotta play the last 2 seconds. I'm sorry, it's just so.
Let me give it the full treatment.
Speaking of peel, is it true that you have an OnlyFans page and you can peel a banana with your feet?
I don't have one, and it's, you know, I'll indulge you this. I just discovered what OnlyFans was about 3 weeks ago when it was brought up in a discussion in my office.
What do you think?
And I was oblivious to the whole concept.
You just can't tell the truth. All right, so speaking of peel, is it true that you have? Can't tell the truth.
No.
I'm sure this person is probably abhorrent on a million issues. I respect the fuck out of her for saying that.
Thank you for letting him, telling him to play the last 2 seconds. I didn't think there was going to be anything in the last 2 seconds, but that made the clip. Thank you for that.
Who was this? Lisa Kennedy? Yeah. Oh my god. That's good stuff. That's too much good stuff.
That was everything right there.
So, and the whole point of that was he said that, he just discovered what the site was 3 weeks ago when his bank records show he used the campaign funds 4 months ago. Oops.
He slipped, fell, and typed his credit card number into OnlyFans. Oops.
Why is he getting an opportunity to say that he's not going to run for re-election? This dude should have been, going back to what Dan said, he should have been done before the commercial break. Like, he shouldn't get an opportunity. It should have been a wrap for him a long time ago. He is a habitual liar.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember all this stuff came out the day he was elected, because once he was elected, people were like, oh shit, really? And the people who were, or the remainders of the gutted local news that was in George Santos's district, those newspapers were like, oh yeah, we've been talking about this shit for a while, but you maniacs actually let him in.
Right.
And
because and this was one of the big races, right? There was a lot of eyes on these districts in New York that were, very much in contention to flip. And then we saw that did flip, but it's like no major news publication was like, let me investigate George Santos, or let me just report on what these local news outlets have already investigated.
Yeah, you'd think the New York Times would get that one in between cashing checks to send Brett Weinstein to Greenland so he finally understands climate change. That was I remember the story. I was like, I'm not giving the New York Times a single cent ever. Once I read that story, I'm like, y'all have too much money. Like,
right.
Get dissolved. Y'all are the Rochester Times, right? Y'all are the Secaucus Times. Figure it out. I'm sorry. Ray might agree with this, but I want to be a little bit indulgent. I wanted to read the full page that we got out of the George Santos thing. So I'll put it on screen here so folks can follow along. Sing along if you know the word. And I'll skip around a little bit. On the 21st of October 2022, Redstone's bank account received $25K from an account affiliated with Contributor 2. There's no postscripts here. I don't know who Contributor 2 is. From there, $25K was transferred from Redstone's account to Representative Santos's personal checking account. Really lazy money laundering.
Right.
It's like real lazy. On the same date, that $25K was transferred from Redstone to a different personal checking account owned by Representative Santos. So they transferred. It seems like a double transfer. Yes, it was. After the $50,000 were deposited into Representative Santos's personal accounts. So 2 big transactions from different places that are connected. Just like, pro shit, really. If El Chapo had done this, the Netflix show would have been 2 minutes long. It would have been a TikTok. Like it would have been so short. After the $50,000 from Redstone was deposited into Santos's personal accounts, the funds were used to, among other things, pay down personal credit card bills and other debt. Who among us? Make a $4,127 purchase at Hermes. Who among us?
Oh,
Who among us? All right, you pay down that debt. You're feeling good about yourself. You might get yourself a nice meal that day. And for smaller purchases at OnlyFans, Sephora, we appreciate a man who knows his concealers, and for meals and for parking. The ISC did not find any evidence showing that the contributions received from contributors 1 and 2 were used to support Representative Santos's candidacy. In addition, a senior member of Santos's campaign staff told the ISC, quote, "The only independent expenditure that was helping the campaign was the NRCC doing their thing that they would do for the young guns, but I don't recall Redstone's strategy." So he just has these like shady brokers giving him money that he's using to literally just like handle his own business. Which is kind of like, this is how politics works. It's just that George Santos is, I don't know if like smart enough to get in, or if our political system is just in shambles enough so someone like him can get in. Like, I don't know, column A, column B type of thing. But he was able to get in, but he just wasn't smart enough to realize that you have to hide it a little bit better, and you can effectively have this life. Like, we know Clarence Thomas effectively has this life where, okay, you know, don't call it a ceasefire, call it a humanitarian pause. Don't call it a bribe, call it a contribution. Call it like an in-kind trip. We know our politics works this way. But yeah, George Santos is just, sadly, because I would have, I agree with you, Ray. I would have loved to see more of this. It's the only thing that brings a smile to my week sometimes. Sadly, he is not long for this. Remember when he was gonna be on a committee, and then even the Republicans were like, "Let's have the breaks."
I really enjoyed the footage of him carrying that baby, and when they asked him, "George, who's is that your baby?" He said, "Not yet." Because I don't know what that means. I've been thinking about it.
Oh gosh, was he gonna steal that baby?
And then he was crying. Okay, also we learned today that apparently he would put out donuts and cookies for the press when they would be outside his office, and he would have his staff bug the containers that had the donuts and the cookies in it to try to listen to what the reporters were talking about outside in the hallway.
Unhinged.
Did he put like a microphone under a donut and then not realize that someone's going to pick up the donut and the microphone?
It's just insane.
His stupidity is disrespectful. Like, you don't respect the people who voted for you and your constituents if you're just going to continuously lie. And like, yes, this most recent thing with OnlyFans is like a terrible lie. And like, yeah, he should have hit it better. But maybe in his mind, he's like, I'm getting by lying, and they know I'm lying, and no one's doing anything about it. Huh? Yeah, I guess I can keep going.
I think he's known people are doing things about it. Republicans, you know, to the extent that Republicans will hold their own accountable, held him accountable in the beginning. They knocked him off of committee seats. He was under investigations. He ain't got that Trump bag, let's say, so however you want to interpret that. So he can't just stand 10 toes down and just collect indictments like it's Infinity Stones. He was just like, okay, how long can I let's go Mets my way through to being able to at least pay off my credit card bills? Like, you know what?
I mean,
you love a girl who hustles.
He's going to go to jail for a really long time. And like, if he just didn't run for office, he could have just kept scamming people quietly and probably gotten away with it quite a bit more. But he was thinking big. He's a dreamer, George Santos.
You see people just burn out all their runway. Like, same thing with Ron DeSantis. He just held it down till 2028. He could have been president, but no.
Right. That was like, I mean, one of the bigger political missteps I've ever seen. Like, you were going to run against Donald Trump. You're losing by 30 points in the state in which you are the governor of. to Donald Trump. Like, why did you ever think that would be the smart time for you to make your move? You ended effectively your career in Republican politics.
Like, the only way that Ron DeSantis could possibly get more Republican support in Florida, because he's basically like, he's stuck at a ceiling because of Donald Trump, is if he were to shoot a campaign ad where he's literally gargling Trump's ball.
Yeah,
like, it's the only way at this point. He needs to show that much fealty to Donald Trump to get his approval points up. And even then, I still think Nikki Haley is going to be VP.
Yeah, it's not going to be Ron DeSanctimonious for sure. Like, I'm sorry, that ship has sailed, because he had to like differentiate himself from Trump in some way, and he decided to do that by attacking Trump. And Donald Trump is the pettiest bitch in the world.
Trump's gonna steal that Vivek line about the heels, and it's gonna be over for him. His grandkids are gonna tease DeSantis about that.
I was hoping he was going to make Tim Scott VP. Therefore, he would be putting a black man in a position that he does not deserve, and ending their own argument against black people getting in positions of power just being handed to them. But I can dream. I'm still hoping, though. I'm still hoping that's going to happen. And we'll get to learn more about Tim Scott's girlfriend or paid actress, whoever she is.
He did hard launch his girlfriend at that event. She just lives in a, she lives in Canada. She's from Canada. She's not around.
She goes to a different school. Yeah, you don't know her, Ray.
You gotta feel bad about like hard launching the day you're dumped. Like, that's just...
Right.
Yeah.
That's tough. Yeah. It was, I mean, like, maybe, does Donald Trump even know who Tim Scott is? I don't.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Never even been on his radar.
Oh my gosh.
I don't. I think Asa Hutchinson is more on Trump's radar than Tim Scott.
Doug Burgum.
But before we start to sell away from George Santos, I just need...
Hey guys, today is opening day. As a good old Mets fan, I know you guys aren't going to be playing until April 6th back home, but in good old fashion, let's go Mets!
The way
Play it again.
The way he says good old, I'm just like, this is the thing Ray was talking about gay lies. It's just, I know it, I see it.
Hey guys, today is opening day. As a good old Mets fan, I know you guys aren't going to be playing until April 6th back home, but in good old fashion, let's go Mets!
I was expecting him to scream touchdown at the end of that whole thing.
In good old fashion, as a good old Mets fan.
And, usually fans, I've always had a pet peeve about this, but usually fans don't say, like, you. If you're a real fan, you say, like, we or our guys, like, you kind of take that up. But the way he goes right here, like...
Guys, today is opening day. As a good old Mets fan, I know you guys aren't going to be playing until...
You guys.
April 6th back home, but in good old fashion, let's go Mets!
And it starts
Let's go
Hey
Mets.
guys!
It's like he's either talking to the team, which doesn't make sense because he just tweeted this out as like look at me, I'm the local guy who supports the local team. Homie's got like a Dodgers jersey underneath, like.
Yeah, this guy doesn't know fucking jack shit about baseball. Like,
his alter ego's got some jersey for some like Colombian baseball team underneath it, like.
Right. George Santos, name one Mets player in history ever. It doesn't have to be current.
First name.
Name. You got a lot of safe bets there. Just guess your own name.
I'll even accept former Mets nicknames that don't involve any slurs.
Right. Ooh, that's slim pickings.
Good luck.
Yeah, no, that was a good. Thank you for bringing up Santos there, because
any opportunity to talk about my boy, and to raise awareness about the injustices being committed against him. Every time I get news about him, I just find myself going, no, No, because it's not fair. That's probably the saddest news of our
Ray, I'm glad you're brave enough to speak up for him. Good job out of you.
You know what?
He needs more voices.
I think that we've been stigmatizing lying for too long. Lying is coming back in a big way. George Santos is a trailblazer for the pro-lying movement, and so it means a lot. It means a lot to me as a liar.
And future generations can use lying as a tool instead of some kind of like weird excuse to explain their shortcomings. So you're right. We should all learn something from this.
Mm-hmm.
I refuse to condemn George Santos. I assert George Santos' right to lie. And anyone who says that George Santos can't lie is homophobic. That's my stance.
And anti-Semitic.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Anti-Semitic.
And they're not a Mets fan at all. So
right, fake friend.
All those things. So don't be all those things. But I have to go to sleep. But thank y'all so much for y'all's time. As always, y'all are dope. Keep speaking up. Keep using y'all's voices in your respective big cities.
We don't have to go into all of the details about your employment change, but can folks still find you? You still making content?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. A video about me and CYT will be coming soon. Yeah, I'm still making content on my YouTube channel. I'm still invited to do Indisputable occasionally, so I'll gladly take that. Indisputable's dope. But as far as me and Rebel HQ, that is no more as of a couple of weeks ago. So
sorry to hear.
Yes.
Big loss.
Yeah.
I appreciate my time there. It was fun. It was fun while it lasted. I got to meet both of y'all, so that was great.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. It's youtube.com/he gonna be all right.
Woo! Yes. Thank you.
Right.
Y'all have a good night.
Awesome. Night. If you have a little bit more time, do you want to do the petty Ben Shapiro?
Please, I put it in my stream title. I'm so glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, because
I always have time for infighting.
the interesting story that we can talk about later, I can even just do myself, is just like the whole TikTok ban of Osama bin Laden, because I've never seen something in the United States like Tiananmen Squared like so quickly than that Osama bin Laden.
And it's so funny because like most, I know we can get into this in a second, but I'll just quickly say most of the views on that came because of boomers on Facebook and on Twitter who were mad about like these kind of not popping off or viral TikToks about Osama bin Laden. But yeah.
It's the Streisand effect. Literally,
yeah.
If you didn't talk about it, it wouldn't be an issue. Okay, so we begin with Benny Pepino talking about Candace Owens in this TikTok here about her behavior, how that's going. This women's not in line. That's how Ben Shapiro said.
Yes, the question was about Candace Owens. I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful. Without a doubt. I think it's she still works for my company. I think she's been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous.
What is he wearing?
It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things that she's saying, and I find them disreputable.
Why is he wearing a white suit jacket?
He's going to Jordan Peterson's.
Is the prom in the 80s?
He's going to Jordan Peterson's stylist. Like, what you need to do is look as metrosexual as possible while you're bigoted.
His hair too. What is this? Flop right here.
This is his best Justin Timberlake in like the early 2000s.
He straightened his bangs. Ben Shapiro straightened his bangs for this event.
He's feeling himself. No, he's got the pomade in there. Like, no, he's kind of glowing up here.
Couldn't be bothered to shave though, I guess. So
I didn't even want to think about that part. So Ben is he's being asked about. Also, I don't understand the placement. This guy down here, I almost thought in the beginning, because I guess he's on a stage standing. But
It looks like he's standing on a couch.
Right?
Like,
yeah, it looks like he's in like a house, like at a private gala or something. But you know, someone's recording it. People there look. This isn't one of his college campuses, so he's not punching downwards like usual. But someone said in chat, the nephew's bat mitzvah blazer. I'm gonna tap the brakes on that one. But like, literally, this guy looks like he is green screening onto the TikTok. Like he doesn't look like he's actually part of the thing on the bottom here. Like he looks like he's about to point up or something and pause it. Like I don't know what's going on.
This is awesome.
But yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because like he hired Candace Owens knowing that she's anti-Semitic. Like Candace Owens, not because of her criticisms of Israel, but at the time he hired her, she was not criticizing Israel, but she was definitely boosting the voices of people who are severely anti-Semitic. Holocaust deniers, he hired her at a time post her statements about Hitler was an idiot only because he wanted to expand outside of Germany. If he had just stayed inside Germany and just made Germany great again, then Hitler would have been fine. Like, that's something she fucking said, and he hired her knowing that she holds these and has made these anti-Semitic statements. But like, now that she said something against Israel, now it's a bridge too far. She defended Kanye West after he was, I mean, just freestyling on anti-Semitism. Like, you know,
not even freestyling. Because I mean, I don't know. Elon Musk literally said you're 100% right when talking about someone who was saying, oh, the Jews are spreading the great replacement theory, so of course they deserve what's happened to them.
Right,
and Elon
right.
Musk going exactly true. Or Kanye West on the Alex Jones show with a butterfly net in one hand, a chocolate milk in the other hand, wearing a mask and yelling I love Hitler, sitting next to Nick Fuentes. I really don't know which one is more over the top racist at this point.
The fucking him going Benjamin Netanyahu.
That's been a joke between Bam, Sean, and I for years, and we just like we that'll be one that we won't be bragging about too much, let's say, but we will say it's like, okay, you know, that's not that clever. We bet.
I mean, but yeah, so like Ben Shapiro, I have enjoyed this this outrage. I don't know if you have any clips of what Candace Owens said or any of her tweets about. But yeah, she has, you know, she said some things that were very true, I'll say, about like genocide, but she also is somehow like, I don't know, this is like a war that's personal for her. Christianity versus Judaism. That's what she's now spun this into, because she knows that she has an audience of you know, far right Christo-fascists who are going to be very receptive to this framing of the issue. But like, how limited are her days at the Daily Wire? I mean, she's got to be on the way out at this point.
I mean, it's interesting because I don't know how to put this any other way than how it's coming out of my Dan brain. So here it goes. You may, at the Daily Wire, I think Matt Walsh has proven that you can have enough fascism credits and you can gain enough fascism credits at a faster speed than you're losing your, you know, dignity points or your not anti-Semitic points or your not proto-fascist. Like, basically what I'm saying is, at the Daily Wire, they don't care if you're racist. I think even Ben Shapiro can look the other way if you're anti-Semitic. Like, because let's be real, Ben Shapiro doesn't run that company anymore. Like, he's aged out of that. There are other people running it. It's a business, and Candace Owens probably makes a lot of money for that business. Ben Shapiro likely won't get rid of Candace Owens because Candace Owens probably got a great contract where there would have to be a payout anyways until she finishes that out. And Candace Owens is at this point, like, it's weird to say because I remember me and Hassan trying to convince people at TYT to pay attention to Ben Shapiro back in like 2017, going like, this is the new face of conservative media. He's very annoying. You got to figure him out. He's not complicated, but like, figure him out quickly. And, enough folks heard our warning enough. But, like, it's weird for me to say Ben Shapiro's, like, old news now.
Yeah.
He's still got views. He's still got a major podcast. But if Candace Owens is at the jumping point off where she could do her own thing and go really crazy with it, like quite literally and figuratively, and do well. And so, yeah, this Christian angle, because it's not Ben Shapiro anymore who's getting reposted and reclipped on social media. It's Candace Owens on like these blogs, these like pages, that. And in the context it's like, oh, look at Candace Owens. She's the rare truth teller who's saying what we wanted to hear. What we want to hear, like, a black face on white supremacy and a black face on Semitism, because it's confusing at first. But yeah, I see that strategy clear out.
And it's, to that point also, like Ben Shapiro not necessarily carrying the same star power that he previously did, right? Like Daily Wire is somewhat synonymous with his name, but he's just one of the founders of this company that has really turned itself into a a fascist conglomerate, right? They've gotten as many of these people under their umbrella, right? But I mean, that really came out, and I think maybe people started paying attention to it a little bit more during their disputes with Steven Crowder, during their contract negotiations with him, because they had sort of more quietly been buying up the rights to people like Candace Owens, to Jordan Peterson, of course, to characters like Matt Walsh. Michael Knowles have been a part of the company for a while, but they were trying to get Tim Pool under their umbrella, right? Because they're cashing in on something, and the people on the back end, the other people who are they're not the faces of the company, right? But they're making these business decisions, see that Candace Owens is good for them financially, because she expands into an audience base that, Ben Shapiro has trouble tapping into, because it is because he's Jewish. I mean, it's this, evangelical Christian sentiment that is in these people that's always going to be off-put when they see Ben Shapiro in a yarmulke, right? They're racist, they're anti-Semitic, and Candace Owens can attract those people. And at a certain point, they're making a business decision, they're probably going to side with the money that she's bringing in over any sort of ideological opposition to what she's saying. And, if it's financially lucrative for her, as you mentioned, she's probably got a really good fucking contract. Considering what they were offering Steven Crowder, I know she's making bank. She's not topping off that gravy train anytime soon. Plus, she doesn't have to handle any of the back end stuff working for the Daily Wire. She doesn't have to hire an employee producer. She doesn't have to pay for a studio. She doesn't have to do any of the fucking annoying setup shit. She just gets to go there and react to TikToks, right? So why would she leave?
Yeah, she's got it really, really good there. And that dynamic, exactly the way you described it, I really love that. Where, okay, Ben Shapiro as an evangelical Christian, wrong. To an evangelical Christian, Ben Shapiro is only useful insofar as he is a Jewish face on evangelical Christian politics in the United States. And they're aligned in a lot of things, including sovereignty uber alles for Israel. Because, we know how evangelical Christians view Israel. And they view it from the river to the sea as well, let's say. But in a much different way than Palestinian protesters. All right? I think, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh for a little bit. That's why I kind of go back to the example of hilariously untalented, dumber than a brick, and still a firebrand for the Daily Wire for all of the, trans baiting stuff. There's Jordan Peterson, who I think Daily Wire kind of got him as a deal, as like a later end on his career, just to kind of bolster up their thing. But no, she is definitely doing well in the fact that she has the power to make the network get her a little bit more of what she wants to. Like the idea of a 50. It's pathetic, but I just need people to understand and describe, like, there is a fraction of that money that TYT could have given. and
Right.
I would be so straight. Like, it would be so good. But like that money just doesn't exist. You don't make the money to be able to give out multiple multi-year $50 million contracts off YouTube. Sorry, breaking news. You don't do that. You do that by, ways outside of YouTube, which are sponsorships maybe, or being aligned with rich people who want a way to reach new audiences.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, just the idea that, people always talk about the fucking, I don't even know what his name is, Katzenberg.
Jeffrey Katzenberg.
It was that. Yeah, he gave TYT like $1 million or $2 million or something years ago. Like, and people always will use that against me. They'll be like, "You're beholden to the interests of this person I've never met and never heard of," until people started saying that to me. And which is funny because obviously it's fundamentally untrue. But just thinking of the idea that like $2 million donated to a company that I am a contract worker for would somehow influence what I say. But then we're seeing on the right wing side of things, fucking $50 million contracts being spit on by Steven Crowder, who's not making anywhere near that much money now. I don't understand what his tactic was. He's not making that
Divorce
kind of money
notwithstanding. Like, no, not even.
But yeah, I mean, just the type of, it's like unfathomable, the type of money that is just being given to these right-wing organizations to try to shape culture and shape policy in this country. And yeah, like that type of power money power doesn't exist on the left. I wish it did. I wish someone was giving me $50 million a year to be like, contact the local congressperson to support a ceasefire. But no, they only give that kind of money to Steven Crowder's old school racist impression. So
yeah, like, first of all, for clarification, if I remember correctly, Jeffrey Katzenberg was part of a $20 million funding round. He's one of the bigger names on that. There are a couple of different other, like, VC firm type things, and they do that. They make some investments. Some of those investments don't work. If one of them does work, it makes them a lot of money, and they feel good about that. You have had, I mean, not really much anymore, especially now that it's been tried and failed a bunch of times, but Sam Cedar through Air America, that was bankrolled by a couple of wealthy liberal. Current TV, where Cenk was on with the Young Turks when they were on TV, bankrolled by Al Gore, was into like liberal voices and had a lot of money. I mean, I don't know if this turns into the Hassan Piker network, like we used to joke about, but like it is nice to have multiple billionaires who are just like, hey, Oliver, we hire some guy to make a call to Oliver Stone every couple of months, and Oliver Stone's like, yeah, sure, $4 million. Here you go for it. That was one $20 million investment. Don't think that went to, at least to my knowledge, Jimmy Dore's BMW. To my knowledge and to what I can see and experience, that mostly went towards the ability so that they can broadcast on TV. Like, so they can be on like YouTube and Roku and all this other. That's like really expensive, top of the line equipment. It definitely didn't go to salary because I went to business school, and you don't spend your like investment money on like you don't spend that small amount of money to run that expensive of a business with that much of a headcount. You don't blow that money on your most expensive thing, which is paying for.
Right.
This is just bad, just bad. I want to read some of the parts of Candace Owens here. There's the tweet that she subtweeted to Ben Shapiro. In fact, I'll play the video first because Candace was on X, actually directly addressing.
She was popping X.
She was on Tucker on X. Candace on Tucker on X. Don't visualize it. And they were talking about this actual thing directly. And here's what she had to say about it in a beautiful Twitter 144p.
Saw the video when everybody else saw it when I woke up.
Bad.
No one warned you about it.
Nobody warned me about it. It looks like maybe he didn't know he was being recorded. It looks like it was some sort of a private event. I got no clarity on the issue that he was particularly speaking on. And in what was said, I also can't respond to it beyond what he's saying because it's just ad hominem attacks. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's not, we disagree, or I don't think she's correct, or maybe she doesn't know what she's talking about. It's absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, exactly.
There is something in here. I understand Tucker Carlson. I know his thing where he's like, it is absolutely disgraceful that Ben Shapiro, that word that Tucker Carlson knows he can't say but definitely wants to, that is anti-Semitic, is actually trying to say that you're wrong without giving it any sort of credit. But he's playing dumb. He's like, wow, I can't believe Ben Shapiro would do that. he's like, you can't see the boner underneath the desk because it's not in the shot. But Tucker Carlson is bricked just at the idea of shivving Ben Shapiro just a little. And it's not even in the competitive media way. It's because Tucker Carlson's a white supremacist and probably hates Jewish people.
100%. 100%.
So I can't respond to it on a level of intellect because there's nothing that he has expressed in that, at least in that short clip, that he fundamentally disagrees with in terms of what I said. But I will say that I'm not going to respond with the same ad hominem attacks. Yes. I don't think it helps further discussion. And if that was me that was caught on a video saying that about colleagues that I work with, I would be embarrassed. So I think that the video speaks more to Ben's character than it speaks to mine.
Has he texted you to apologize or explain or anything?
No, nothing. I haven't heard a single word. It just was sort of something that he said. And you know what? Ben and I have many disagreements, so I don't think that that's particularly something that's interesting. We disagreed on the COVID vaccine. We disagree on Ukraine and Russia. He has taken virtually every stance that has been the opposite of mine on every issue over the last 5 years. So I don't think that that's particularly remarkable.
Vaccine. Really, I didn't remember that.
Yeah, he was pro the COVID vaccine. I was anti the vaccine. We were all idiots for not getting the vaccine. So that's totally fine. I am totally open to people having a difference in opinion.
Right.
I would hope that amongst colleagues that it would always be civil disagreement, and I would never in a private event stand on a table and talk badly about Ben.
It's a little weird. It's a little weird. So he was on the left on those three biggest issues of our time.
The shivving there, yo, the shivving.
And it's interesting because she does have a point, right? If a video surfaced of, I don't know, I work in TYT, so I'll use this as an example. If a video surfaced of Jank, in a private event saying that something I said was disgraceful, I would be outraged. I would be aggrieved that my boss didn't just contact me directly to have this disagreement or didn't address it in a way where I could directly respond to it in the moment. So he did put himself in a shitty position. By hiring her, he put himself in a shitty position that would have inevitably ended up like this, whether it be on this issue or a different issue. And they have gotten in backs and forths before. But it was interesting because when she was defending Kanye, I think what she was saying was so much more blatantly anti-Semitic than the signals that she's trying to give out now, right? I mean, just by sitting across from Tucker Carlson is making a statement about why she's now taking this position on Israel. But, and he didn't have that same, what she said was disgraceful. He said, we have a disagreement. She said Kanye West is not anti-Semitic. He said, I love Hitler. And you're pretending that this was just some disagreement you have. Are you kidding me? But it is funny to see him take this. And I said it before, but I'll repeat it. It's funny to see him take this stance now and be more aggrieved now that she has very tamely said that Israel is committing a genocide, that would be more impactful to the people. I don't know what kind of dinner or what function that was, but that it would cause him to make that statement, and as opposed to the numerous times she's fucking said pretty heinous, abhorrent shit in the past.
I need to hear Ben Shapiro again because there are certain words that were quiet on the iPhone recording. But I will point out that even before the comically obvious endorsing Kanye, who was yelling that he loves Hitler on the Alex Jones show next to Nick Fuentes, one of the most notorious youth white nationalists in the United States political scene today.
Right.
Literally as he was clapping behind the scenes. It's even before that, Candace Owens got heat. And I think this was really early on when she was just hired by the Daily Wire. Candace Owens got heat for saying that you know, the only thing that Hitler did wrong in World War II was expanding beyond Germany. With the idea of, you know, making Germany great again, having a state for Germans by Germans, you know, from the Rhine to the sea, let's say, like, you know, that was totally good. Like, that was
fine. I think she said that before they hired her.
I think you're right.
And they hired her after she had said that. So, like, I mean, you knew who this person was. I mean, and I don't know what Candace Owens actually believes. I know that I know that she'll say whatever she needs to say, you know, to get her money up. It says
we know that for a fact. We remember Joe Rogan. I hate to like. There was a point in time where I was able to listen to Joe Rogan podcast. And I think there was a time where he was genuinely more, oh, I'm curious. I'm just going to listen to these people out. I'll be your friend and I like won't shoot you down at every moment just because I disagree with you. But, you know, I'll pick at things here and there. This is the era of Joe Rogan where Dave Rubin was on and he pointed out that, oh, you can't deregulate everything, dumbass, because what about the post office? What about construction? Like, you can't do that.
It was literally, how else am I supposed to get chickens in the mail? Like, you end the post office.
It was, I think maybe even the post office thing was Candace Owens. It was the same thing. Joe Rogan was like, wait, the thing you're talking about is stupid. Like, you just can't do that. It was, no, but the thing I was trying to mention was part of Candace Owens' history more recently, and during this Joe Rogan interview I'm talking about, was she was the anti-Black Lives Matter black woman. She was the anti, any black person who was shot or killed by police deserved it. She was saying all the things that anti-BLM white folks wanted to hear a black person say that they had to cover, right? Her history was going after the son of the mayor of her hometown because that son at her like middle or high school, elementary school or whatever, apparently referred to Candace Owens using a racial slur. And it was a big scandal of that hometown. And because of that incident and because of the racism that she reported having felt, she is now on TV saying that racism doesn't exist in this country. So to that point about what does Candace Owens really believe, I think she believes whatever will win her the attention of the most lucrative audience of the day, which she's niched herself into conspiratorial, right-wing, male, I think white and black. I think all this kind of fall into that, but it's a very male-centric sort of thing. And some transphobic women that here and there that fall into Candace Owens and stuff. I see that too. But, sorry, really, I need to hear this Ben Shapiro thing and what she actually said, because it'll make the subtweet context more funny.
And the question was about Candace Owens. I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful.
Her behavior during this administration?
During this has been disgraceful.
I don't know if he says demonstration or administration, because it seems like wild. Like, during the Biden administration, Candace Owens, your behavior. Or does he refer to his own, like, throughout my administration as editor-in-chief emeritus at the Daily Wire?
Without Candace Owens, I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful. Without a doubt,
I can't tell.
He said that her behavior during this has been disgraceful. Is that
think
what he
so.
says?
Yes, like disgraceful, and he says like another term for it too.
I think she's been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous. It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things.
Her faux sophistication on these issues has been ridiculous, comma, it's not faux sophistication, she's being ridiculous.
Right. Why?
It kind of seems like he's on his toes, because it sounds like someone, he says, yeah, she still works at my company. It sounds like that's in reply to saying, oh, well, you hate her, you say she's bad. Well, she still works at your company. What are you going to do about it, Ben? Are you going to fire her? And then Ben's like,
Green screen man is looking at him crazy right now. He's like,
and then Ben's like, that's when he knew he fucked up, because if he fires Candace Owens, like, then free speech warrior, facts don't care about your feelings, Ben Shapiro is going to be looking some type of way. And a lot
Right,
of people
exactly.
will have cognitive dissonance about that. But like you said earlier, a major part of Ben Shapiro's audience who kind of doesn't like Jews are going to read that some type of way, and they're paying subscribers for Daily Wire Plus or whatever you're talking about. Right? So
Right.
that's a bottom line issue. So the subtweet was Candace Owens getting, like you were alluding to, all religious about it all of a sudden, which is an interesting, we're talking about the conflation of Jewish people in Israel and Muslims and Palestine and Hamas, and like these are religion layered onto countries and states and people. It's complicated, right? But it's a really interesting choice, I will say, as I'm like bearing the lead and reading this, that Candace Owens is picking an evangelical Christian path in a subtweet fight with Orthodox Jew.
Right.
It's very pointed. Anyways, she also did a similar thing going to God when she knew about the divorce and possibly more involving
Divorce Plus.
Divorce Plus for $4.99 plus alimony. You too can. No, so yeah, during the Steven Crowder divorce, she took this similar religious arc. Here she says in response to Ben Shapiro, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you, and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you, falsely for my sake. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Christ is king." I'm sorry, didn't Ben Shapiro freak out about Ilhan Omar saying all about the Benjamins when referring to a Jewish person?
That's exactly what I was about to say. You cannot serve both God and money feels like, I mean, maybe the most anti-Semitic thing she could say without just saying like you're a money grubbing, slur for Jewish people. I mean, it's fascinating because like I don't think Ben Shapiro supports Israel for money. He's doing it for love of the game, okay? He is a Zionist.
Yeah.
So like what is she trying to imply? Like and there are things I think Ben Shapiro supports for money, 100%. Israel is not one of them. That man fucking loves Israel and hates brown people. He hates Muslim people, particularly Palestinians. Like, I don't think there's an amount of money you could pay him to not support Israel.
Yeah, there's Ben Shapiro's famous for the tweet, which even he is half apologized for, and then gone and said things many times is worse, and basically just getting at the point. He's famous for the Israelis like to build, Arabs like to bomb crap and live in open sewage tweet. Like that. That's all Ben Shapiro.
Hashtag settlements rock.
You can't forget hashtag settlements rock.
Just like the lamest person ever. Spokesperson for, for the state of Israel. They got Amy Schumer, the Stranger Things kid, the one that nobody likes, and then fucking Ben Shapiro. You guys are not sending your best.
It's truly Mount Rushmore for mediocre Jews. It's including Amy Schumer in there somehow.
Zionism is sexy. What can we say?
Oh,
there are people who thirst after Ben Shapiro. You know what? I'll be fair to him. There's an account called Ben Shapiro's Biceps. That under every Ben Shapiro tweet posts a picture of him flexing his muscles, and they get a lot of likes. I've seen it quite frequently just because I'm on political Twitter and I see a lot of Ben Shapiro posts.
If you gawk at something, that tells the algorithm you like it, so you just end up seeing more of it. That's the excuse I'm giving you. I don't like it. I'm disturbed. That's why I keep watching it. I know, yeah.
Right. Making a note to Twitter, please show me less.
This is the thing I was kind of hesitating to say, but it's kind of right and it allows me to segue it. So yeah, TikTok has gone on this whole ban thing of a letter to America that The Guardian had published in 2002. Well, Osama bin Laden, I think it was 2002, maybe 2004, but early on in the 2000s. And he was contextualizing that and like, okay, this is the reason, if I could give a reason for 9/11 and all those other different plots and why people hate America and stuff like that. And it's getting a lot of cachet right now, because of the Streisand effect, and that The Guardian taking it down and TikTok acting to get rid of it made more people look at it and, you know, try to figure it out. B, because there's some parts in it that are pro-Palestinian and mention America's complicity in Israel's continued, killing of Palestinians. That was apparent, even in the 2000s, but really even in the 1950s. So people are looking at that point. I'll just say, having read that just today and having read this Candace Owens thing, there's a lot of similarities.
You're right.
Like, thankfully, not enough people have read both of those things for me to like get killed immediately online for saying that Candace Owens sounds exactly like Osama bin Laden when talking about his Jewish boss Ben Shapiro. But I will say, as doing my journalistic, my journalistic duty, this, blessed are God because we are the righteous ones and our enemies are not, and they are killing right now, but they will come and see the day that God will separate those who are truthful between those who aren't, and it won't matter what the money that you sit on or the power that you sit on, like God will be great. Like verbatim, that's the same shit. That's when me as like a less religious person, I don't look at all the, okay, well, this is the extreme Jewish interpretation, or this is the extreme Muslim interpretation, or this is the extreme Christian interpretation. I'm like, oh wow, these are all extreme interpretations and they all lead to kind of the same place. And I don't like that same place, and civilians will not like that same place regardless of what religion they're.
Right. I will say it's been fascinating to me to see a lot of people come to the realization that I would have hoped that people had come to earlier, which is that 9/11 was blowback. Right. I mean, anybody who, Hassan famously said America deserved 9/11.
Worst week of my life. I got death threats because of that.
How were you? Like, how did that come back on you? You didn't say it.
Because
I know you were.
I was like Hassan's producer. It was the same month when we were doing Agitprop, and like he was on Alex Jones's show, and there was like some other controversy thing, and that was right before one of the now famous Cenk Hassan summits where one of them does something bad and the other talks to them about it. Yeah, that was the first of many of those. But I'll stop right there. I've said I've come close to saying enough slurs tonight. I'm not going to get into that family, but two Turkish men having a lively conversation. That idea of, I think, people are kind of unlearning the programming that I think even their parents have of, we're attacked on 9/11 because people just hate that America exists because we're free and they're not.
Freedom. They hate freedom. They're literally doing like the Aaron Sorkin special episode of West Wing to address 9/11 like opinion. I mean, like, you have to be it takes a child's brain. David Cross did, stand up about this a million years ago, where he said you have to be 6 years old. This is a country of 6-year-olds that are like, oh, they're attacking us because our women wear less clothes and they hate our freedom, which like is patently absurd. I mean, and anybody who knows anything about anything now can reasonably say Hassan could have phrased it better, but he was right. 9/11 was blowback. We know that for a fact because he told us that he did 9/11 because of what America's done in the Middle East, because of their support for, Israeli occupation and genocide against Palestinian people. We have that information. I'll say it's a little disappointing to see people like, I mean, it's important to read the letter, and the Atlantic unpublishing it, or excuse me, the Guardian unpublishing it. Like, why? Why?
The Guardian is objectively, I mean, it's been long since they were my proud Manchester Guardian with their like proud leftist roots. Like it's been a long time since then. I think they're generally good on coverage. I think on trans issues they've been particularly poor, and like a lot of mainstream media reporting on stuff going on with Israel, I think there's a lot of improvement. But you don't just because people are reading something and, you know, some group of people online who, you know, admittedly may not be understanding the full context of it, because I'm still of the fact that, like, okay, if you're someone who is willing to do something like that, I don't care how righteous your cause is. Like, that's not grand arc of history. Maybe it butterflied affects something, but I still think that's an extreme, like, terrorist position. Osama bin Laden did not care about the liberation of, like, I mean, maybe in rhetoric, but what he's doing in his actions don't show that he cares about the liberation of any sort of people or human rights in any sort of regard, right? So, but the idea that you would remove that from debate, like I was I was popping off with a group chat with Bam earlier today, and I was like, no, I want American politicians to reconcile with the fact that a certain number of people under a certain age think Osama bin Laden's right. I'm not to be clear here, don't assault me. I'm not saying Osama bin Laden's right. I'm not saying. What I am saying is that we would have a much healthier politics right now, which sounds crazy, but we have a much healthier politics if adults had to reconcile with the fact that a terrorist sounds reasonable to young people. Because of that thing. Because those things that were mentioned in, like, you know, Benjamin Netanyahu is also an extremist and has, like, religious tendencies to it. Vladimir Putin is. But the stuff that they cite and they reference are like, okay, well, that's not how history happened. Okay, well, that's just patently ridiculous. Okay, well, you're just missing stuff there. They omit things for their point. Osama bin Laden was, like, referencing historical things that happened, that the United States and the United States CIA, like you said, years later, they've come out and said, oh, yeah, we did that. We talked on, maybe you were here on that, but I think Hassan was debating. No, I was watching this myself. Hassan debated Ethan and talked about stuff, and Ethan couldn't. I also saw Ethan couldn't believe that the United States would covertly give weapons to Israel to fight the Palestinians, and like. Just to, you know, check myself to make sure I'm not in a filter bubble, I Googled it, and lo and behold, I find a paper on a literal government website that is a report that the CIA put out that was like, well, yeah, of course we were discreetly arming the Israelis. And it's like, when... I don't know how you can tell me I'm a conspiracy theorist when the CIA is admitting it.
Yeah. And that was a very difficult conversation to watch as someone who's, like, wearing their fucking merch right now, Teddy Fresh. But, like, but yeah, I mean, just to the Bin Laden thing, cover up my Bin Laden poster behind me. But it is fascinating to me, you know, someone who's in a relationship with someone who's Middle Eastern, you know, and who hears these same points quite frequently and working in politics, and, you know, having, you know, a lot of Muslim people in my community and friends who have been fucking making these points. But it's like, to see people like, oh, Bin Laden said it. Was Bin Laden right to do 9/11? Like, that's not the takeaway here, people. Like, please get it together, guys. It is not the takeaway that you should be having. Like, what you should be gleaning, you know, from this is that America lied to you about why 9/11 happened. They did. They lied to you about the reasons for it, because they think you're stupid little babies and you just gobbled it up apparently until you read to yesterday this letter to America from Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, you gobbled it up until the himbo on Twitch was talking about it one day. Like, it's
exactly, because and you know, someone in my chat said it. I was about to say it, but yeah, it said analysis is not justification, right? We're reading this letter that doesn't fucking or it's the same way talking about giving historical context to the Hamas attack on Israel on 10/7 or 7/10, if you're from any other part of the world that's not the United States. But, you know, it's not justifying that. No one's, I mean, there are people out there who are trying to do that, but, like, the idea that just providing the historical analysis and you know, providing the context that explains why this happened is justifying it, is an intentional way of it's propaganda. It's intentionally propagandizing this so that that anybody who wants to actually potentially offer a solution that might prevent this from happening in the future is deemed a terrorist sympathizer. That was the exact playbook post 9/11. It's the exact playbook now, which is why it was so on the nose for them to say this is Israel's 9/11. Like, okay, well, we're just going to do America Playbook Part 2, but somehow maybe worse.
Yeah.
I mean, America killed 1 million Iraqi civilians alone post 9/11. So let's see how, that was, and this is Israel's got 15 9/11. So is that going to be like the equivalent of 15 million Palestinians?
Yeah. Quoting Biden, when you do it per capita, it's like 13 9/11s. It's like, what are we... It's like the joke that Europeans have, how Americans are like, can you please stop measuring things in football fields? Like, can you please tell us something?
But I'll say George Santos not running for re-election was my version of 15 9/11s.
So. To buttress your point, exactly what they were saying after October 7th, they're like, okay, wow, Israel has just been attacked by Hamas fighters. And they just like treat it like it was out of the blue. Like, Israel just walking down the street, happy-go-lucky, when all of a sudden these terrorists come in. And that's how 9/11 was treated when you were living in the United States, in the media. There were no... Back when you had to go, and even this is arguable, this wasn't true, but like you had to go back in the year 2000 when Bill Maher was like kind of based and, made an edgy joke and almost lost his career for it a week after 9/11. When no one else was like willing to do the same. Wasn't like the best joke, but like you the main point is that after October 7th, you had people saying, no. It's not like, let's be clear. Hamas didn't just decide, you know what, let's attack Israel on this day, just completely unprovoked. Because the idea that people were getting in the media was that it was unprovoked. And then by even saying that Hamas was provoked, that sounded like, oh, well, Hamas is justified. Hamas is the reason. That's why you got the condom hummus meme. Like, it's just that's where we're at now. Like, oh, you won't condemn Hamas? It's what you were saying, Ray, to explain the conditions of how we got here in hopes, in the, with the intent of giving voice to a strategy that would make this less viable. I mean, like, terrorism is an idea. It's really easy to get people to do, not really easy, but you can get people to do certain things based off of actions or whatever. But if you're a terrorist organization and your recruitment angle is the oppressor keeps bombing hospitals and schools and killing your children before they even like can walk on their own, then damn, that's a real good recruiting strategy. If your recruiting strategy is the people we're saying are the oppressors, have us vote in regular elections and we get to walk on the same streets they do, and a lot of times, like, sometimes you get jerks, but generally everyone's our friends, and we all meet up at the bodega and then go out to concerts and festivals, and no one turns me away because I'm Palestinian. No one gets turned away because they're Jewish. I'm just saying, like, you have a harder argument to a terrorist if you actually live in a democratic state, if you actually live in a democratic place. If you treat Palestinians with human rights and dignity, you're not going to get rid of all the terrorism because you have 70 years of history. That's a lot to be done. But you do that, you give some reparations, you give some land back, you stop the settlements. There's going to be some people who would have called up arms who are just like, hey man, I don't know, I got work tomorrow. They got rid of the settlements anyways. I got $200. Like, I got to go.
Right.
You change people's material conditions and you start to acknowledge what went wrong there, and you make it harder for terrorism to succeed. By just doing that, you get called an anti-Semite. By just explaining, oh, if you don't make me mad, I won't be mad.
Right.
That got you called anti-Semitism. And so that's how you have to fight these systems of propaganda in the United States and also abroad.
Yeah. And the idea that you can't call, 70 years of occupation and ethnic cleansing, ongoing genocide, forcing millions of people to live in like the most densely populated area, one of the most densely populated areas on earth, in an open air prison where they can't get materials to rebuild their houses after the last time you bombed them. You're indiscriminately shooting children. Like a week before, in the West Bank, an IDF soldier shot a girl in the head, a Palestinian girl who was looking for her cat outside. I mean, like this ongoing, they're getting more fierce with their evictions in the West Bank. The situation becoming more and more desperate. The idea that that's not provocation, I don't know what provocation is then. Like that word has no meaning if you can't call that what it is. It's a provocation. Just because there was a ceasefire doesn't mean that there wasn't they have a blockade. Like I said it, but they literally can't get the materials to rebuild their homes from the last time that Israel bombed them. They have to rebuild their homes with mud. And when they have, and it really got to me at this point because I was listening to this conversation between two individuals, and I'll leave it at that, where one of them said, people in Israel are terrified. They have to go down into their bomb shelters. And the other person said, people in Gaza don't have bomb shelters. There's nowhere for them to go that is safe. The place Israel told them they would be safe, they bombed. They bombed the route to get there. I mean, Israel just posted a picture where they were showing how kind the IDF soldiers were helping this elderly disabled man, get into the caravan with people who were leaving. They shot him in the back after they took that picture. They killed him and left him on the side of the road. Killed this guy who they used for propaganda purposes. I mean, like the idea that there isn't just a continuous provocation by the state of Israel is fucking bullshit. And me saying that doesn't mean I'm trying to justify, indiscriminately shooting civilians. Of course not. Although I would always make the distinction, and I saw some dumb post about this today, I would always make the distinction that military targets are legitimate targets. I saw somebody say like, well, Israel forces people to join the IDF when they become a certain age and serve for a certain amount of time. And I'm like, that's Israel's problem. That's not, Hamas or resistant fighters' problem. Like those are military targets. That's not like, we don't count those in civilian deaths just because and I think their comparison was, would you call a Vietnam War veteran like a legitimate target? Yes, I do. I would have, not now, but like during the war.
Hey man, yes. I don't know a fight, but I know how to call a boxing match, right? Like it's like, hey, I don't need to see two people beat the shit out of each other. That being said, those two are boxers, like, right. And they can hit each other. One
climbs out and goes punches someone in the crowd in the face. Like that's a different story. But if they're hitting each other, like
it's literal fair game. I mean, all of these arguments that are like, what other country is so humane? They give them warnings before they bomb their hospital. It's like, what other country is so humane? They give their enemy warnings before they cut off their electricity. It's like, okay, first of all, in most wars, the person you're fighting against doesn't have the ability to like turn off your electricity, not just by bombing your, power plants or targeting coal or nuclear infrastructure. No, by like a switch. Because It's like, because where you live is set up because you have electricity there, but for the grace of the oppressors. They are giving you a little bit, a crumb of electricity as a treat, and then collectively punish you and take that away. Like it's all of these things. Even that whole like, oh, well, they feel scared, have to go in their bunkers thing. Do you want to know what the IDF calls bunkers? Underground tunnels that are being used to hide weapons and hostages. And the bunkers underneath the houses that are shelters, that's called human shields. You see, they've been running on that human shield shit, and they've been right into the wheels fall off.
Right. And it's crazy, like, when you think about one of the uses of those tunnels, of course, we've seen all these videos of
the Gaza Metro.
I mean, we've seen these videos of the militants, whether they be, Islamic Jihad or Hamas or, other militant organizations, or the militant wings of those organizations, popping up out of the tunnels, no scoping a tank, and then going back down into the tunnels. Which, like, on the propaganda side of things, Hamas is killing it versus Israel. Like, you're posting a video of some dude in flip flops running up to a tank, putting a bomb on the tank, and then ducking behind the bushes. Like, that is crushing the holding up the annotated version of Mein Kampf. Okay, like that. The edits of like Fallout, like focusing on certain regions of IDF soldiers.
Is this a safe space? Well, I mean, like, there was a reason when, I mean, again, we're not celebrating what was going on, but what people's first reaction when people just wasn't knowing what was going on, when people were parachuting over the smart fence that Israel has, was like, oh damn, that's kind of hard. Like, they obviously can't make it over the fence. They obviously can't go under the fence, so they're not obviously, but like they have charges and things to. It's supposed to be a tunnel-proof fence. So they went over that mug.
Yeah,
and the snipers couldn't shoot up.
I mean, it's just crazy because it's like, how did they get that?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, how'd
they do that? How did they do that?
Right. Where did you train that? You just got to one-shot it. You can't practice that. You just have to go. Like, but the other thing I was going to say about the tunnels is they do use the tunnels to bring in items that Israel's blockade prevents them from getting, like resources. They also use those tunnels to get fucking resources into Gaza. So, of course, as I mentioned, the fighters use it, Hamas uses it, they bring in, illicit weaponry through it too, of course. But like, it is so stark that has to exist because of Israel's blockade. So whenever somebody fucking tells you, well, Israel ended their settlements in Gaza, they pulled out all their residents from Gaza and left it alone, like, I can't think of a more fucking bullshit thing that you could possibly say. It's an open air prison. People from, they suffer, what is it, like, a majority of Gazan residents, a vast majority of them don't have access to clean drinking water before this. And so they would have extremely high instances of kidney disease, and Israel wouldn't allow certain types of dialysis machines into Gaza. So those people would have to get special passes to go get medical treatment outside of Gaza, which Israel could and did and does at the drop of a hat revoke for no reason. To just let those people die. I mean, this is not the type of relationship that you see between, I don't even want to say in an equal war, because most wars are unequal, but you don't have this sort of occupying, force with this ability to treat this group of people or punish them collectively in this manner in a lot of other conflicts, which is why international law makes it, the use of, okay, I'm all over the place right now, but Israel under international law does not have a right to defend itself. So anytime somebody says that it's bullshit, they don't have a right to defend themselves. They're an occupying force. So even after the Hamas attack, they didn't have a right to defend themselves. They didn't have a right to go into Gaza to try to even root out Hamas, which they don't care about doing, to be clear. And I've been bogarting this for a minute, so I'll stop talking now. But yeah, I mean, they don't have a right to defend themselves.
Have you seen me host this show? Bogarting away is like what we do. That's totally fine. My dream happened, which was when I was doing the show with Bam and Ben and Emma. I made all of them jump in their seats and like their eyes got wide because I said something real wild and they're like, "Oh God." So it's like, okay, well, we're doing it. So good job. But I'm glad you point out the fact that because Israel is an occupying force, which is something we understood really easily when Russia was invading Ukraine, they did not have a right to defend themselves. I mean, you could make more of an argument if they weren't going into territory that was beyond, what they've already, usually accepted as borders. And they weren't trying to take land, and they were just, fortifying areas they already had and securing those things. You could maybe argue that as defense. Save the quote unquote normal everyday situation that you have in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, where Palestinians are like third, fourth class citizens. Right? But no, they are going further in. It's like, okay, we'll take that hospital, we'll take that school, we'll flatten that whole like district of apartment complexes. We'll flatten this house. We'll flatten the family members that come there. We'll flatten the ambulances that are the first responders. We'll flatten like even Obama wasn't triple tapping, yo.
Right.
Obama stopped at the 2. Obama was the 1-2 punch guy. Like seriously, no, Drone King. I learned about double taps through the collateral damage video with WikiLeaks and Julian Assange and all those other different things, right? I learned double taps were striking your thing and then striking the first responders. This was doing triple taps, quadruple taps.
Right.
If you want to get concerned about that little love tap they do, the warning they do where they like strike a random part of the building 3 days before they warn people to get out immediately, like that's a 5 tap.
I mean, they're holding the Israeli flag on top of the roof of Al Shifa Hospital. Like, what can you call this other than a land grab? That's what they're doing. And like, I think there's a lot of disingenuous, and I said this earlier, but painting the picture as they pulled out of Gaza, they removed their settlements from Gaza. But that's because they don't want to make settlements in Gaza. They just want to take the land. They don't want to, have to go through the process of evictions. They just want to get everyone out in one fell swoop and fucking remove them from and most of these people living there. This is just the new homes that they've had to make for themselves after being forced down in the Nakba. Like a lot of the residents of Gaza are refugees, which is why, and it's not a refugee camp because they have buildings. That's not even close to what that means. Like, I know you pictured tents and that's a refugee camp to like most people in their mind, but like Jabalia is a refugee camp. There are plenty of refugee camps, areas in Gaza that are housing because of the fucking Nakba, because these people have already been ethnically cleansed once. So that's why when you see a lot of people who don't want to leave northern Gaza to go south, it's because 1, they know they're going to be bombed when they go south, but 2, they know they're never going to get to even come back here. So why go at that point? Why fucking go? They're extremely brave to stay. Extremely brave to stay. They're not, Hamas or all terrorists. These are people who are just done. They're fucking done being pushed out of where they're living, and they know the playbook of Israel.
And bring it back here, they'll say, "Oh, you have a microwave. You're not poor, even if you're living paycheck to paycheck." And you're like, "Oh, you have a cell phone. You have an iPhone. You're not poor." Like it's this callousness that you see from the exact same people who would say the things I just said and the things that Ray was just talking about right now. And it's because the Palestinian people understand that, okay, well, when we run, they bomb us. When we stay, they bomb us. And when we run, they take away where we ran and just get stronger.
Yeah.
I'm going to die standing. And you just, it's a choice that not just regular families and, like doctors are making this choice to help more people. Journalists are making this choice to cover what would otherwise be a media blackout by the Israelis who, to be fair, are so nice they warn you when they're going to cut off your internet. It's just like, it's one of the most, from the most minor inconveniences to the most major annoying things that I have going on in my life. It's really put into perspective how these folks are living, the resilience that the Palestinian, that unfortunately, so few people, I mean, regular folks care about, but so few people in power care about, and none of the terrorist organizations.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's fucking devastating. And just journalists, on the ground covering what's, Palestinian journalists, independent journalists having to tweet, "I'm alive." Good morning, I'm alive. I'm going to bed, I'm still alive. Because they don't know if they will be the next day. And that is grim. And what's more grim is the fact that people who should be, uh, people who should give a shit about them, people who work in media, don't. They don't care. They don't care that, and we were talking about in most wars, your opponent doesn't have the ability to just at the flip of a switch turn your lights off. In most wars, your opponent doesn't have the civil registry that lists your occupation and your address so that they can bomb the houses of journalists, so that they can kill their entire families. I mean, we know that they've been targeting journalists, and it seems like, and right now they just said, or not right now, but a week ago, they just said, we're going to kill all of the photojournalists who did their jobs on 10/7, on October 7th. We're going to kill them because they're terrorists. People who they followed the action, they documented what happened, they did their jobs, are now, Israel's considering them legitimate targets.
I was just going to say, to that, I'm mad at American conservatives who are afraid of the government. Oh, they do the census, they got a registry, they know where we all are, they can come for us. And they don't understand the dynamic you just described.
Right.
Probably through information, but also like these people claim to get all their information from all these weird sources, and somehow they're not getting that in. That is the exact same type of situation that they fantasize about, but it's actually happening. And then secondly, the American press, right? Like, we've seen how many times the IDF has tried to lie, smear, and, just put out absolute mistruths. We've seen during this instance, during this time, where they say, oh, this is definitely Hamas. We know this for a fact. And then evidence from other news outlets goes, oh, it's a lot less clear. Oh, it looks like it could have been Israel in this situation. We know from even before this recent dust-up where the IDF killed a journalist, very clearly, deliberately shot them because they were press and talking to Palestinians, and then denied it even after reporters and other media outlets worldwide, even the New York Times, covered it. So it's amazing that CNN takes a call from the IDF, and the IDF is like, hey, would you like to embed with us? And CNN's like, absolutely, no questions asked. This seems legitimate. It's like,
I mean, they're willing to submit all of what they're going to be reporting to the IDF for approval before it airs. That was a promise CNN made. And it's like, for exclusive coverage. I mean, and there's not, I watch MSNBC because I'm libbed up. I'm just kidding. But I do
double
watch it
libbed
sometimes.
up on a Thursday night.
Right, exactly. And there are individuals who I think have been better, surprisingly good on this. Of course, Mehdi Hassan is someone who, has a good track record talking about. Yeah, he's been excellent on this. But Joy-Ann Reid was not someone I expected to, be a voice of clarity. And she has been. She's been good on this. There's plenty of people, who I wouldn't typically expect to be on this side, on the right side of an issue, and they have been. But then, for every one-off person who's good on this, there's like a million people who are writing, articles and people making headlines for articles that say Palestinians claim air bomb kills, or a Reuters journalist, and it's
bomb
like
miraculously falls on family of journalists and all of their extended family who are hiding out at the family's wife's place. Like, it's insane. It's insane,
and those are people you should feel some connection to. You share, you have the same job, you work in the same industry. It's in some cases you work at the same news outlet, and you don't have the nerve to say what happened. It's despicable. It's pathetic.
I think it's getting better. You're seeing activism, you're seeing polling, you're seeing public support, you're seeing the panic, really, at trying to keep things going this. And so that has been very promising, and I know it's really late for you and you'll probably be wanting to leave soon. So I wanted to, before you leave, play you out with something relatively nice. You know, there's a lot going on internationally and a lot going on domestically. Sometimes it aligns and sometimes it doesn't. But we can all sit down and laugh at Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of the dumbest people in.
So good.
Treat this like the Olympics and treat it like a ballet performance or a gymnastics performance, actually, where you're just trying to figure out how they stick the landing and how good they do, and at the end we'll like throw up scorecards. Okay? Think of it like that.
Congresswoman, as I said, I haven't seen the photos that you're holding up before.
Maybe, well, I posted them on my Twitter account. It's public. You know, maybe
I don't
you guys
spend a lot of time on Twitter.
Well, you know, oh, I'm sure you do, because the Department of Homeland Security, organized with other offices, has censored many Americans, including myself.
I'm not part of the Department of Homeland Security.
Right, Mr. Ray, you should be interested in investigating terrorism.
Congresswoman.
It's so good. It's like a 30 Rock bit, right? You just can't fucking Veep. It is Veep. It's literally Veep. Veep imitates life. The most accurate most accurate to what it's actually like to be in American politics.
As you'll see it on my Twitter, I don't use Twitter. Oh well, I bet you do, because as part of the transportation department, I don't work in the transportation department. It's like, well, you should care, because trains are nice. I like trains. I have a train set at home, and you should care. I lost my train of thought. It's just dear God. You can laugh
so good.
You can fiddle while Rome burns, it turns out. You truly can.
Oh, that was so good. That was so needed too when it came. It was just like she knew that we were all going through it. And so she was like, let me give him something to something to lighten the load.
She's cooled her jets, she's cooled her Jewish space lasers, and now she's going for the hit. Just some domestic. We didn't even get to Mark Wayne Mullen like getting goaded by the union head, the team.
So odd. So fucking bizarre.
It's the same reaction that I had with Gavin Newsom had when Ron DeSantis accepted the debate. Gavin Newsom was on an interview over at Fox LA, and after that he was asked, well, how do you feel that Ron DeSantis has accepted the debate? And Gavin Newsom said, I think he's made one of the biggest mistakes of his entire campaign. I mean, why would you debate me? You're a presidential candidate. I'm not. Why are you wasting your time? You're stooping. Gavin's like, you're stooping down a level to debate me. Why? Because you're like desperate for attention. You're desperate for clicks, and you think it's gonna help you, but it's not.
And he was right. He was spitting.
It's like it's interesting. The same thing happened with Mark Wayne Mullen, where the Teamsters guy was just like, I'm just gonna like, okay, yeah, go ahead, tough guy, go ahead, do that. Show your ass all on TV. Make Bernie Sanders have to hold you back. Go ahead, kid. Go ahead.
Bernie trying to like rein in that hearing though was so funny, because they were like an unruly class of I mean, it was just Mark Wayne, but like it was a goofy ass name. You can't be in the Senate with a name like that.
Who
Come on,
calls himself a wrestler because in the mid 2000s he did semi-professional wrestling. He won 3 matches, 2 of which were against the same guy. That guy was like 1-for-11 in wrestling. So Mark Wayne Mullen's got hands is what I'm trying to say. Or at least maybe had hands in 2006.
Right. And then him posting, he was asked on some podcast, I don't know, and then he posted a picture of him in front of a table with more guns than the IDF found at Al Shifa Hospital, and was like, anytime, any place. Like, you're going to shoot these guys who invited you on their podcast? You're in the Senate. But also just to, bring it home with the Marjorie Taylor Greene thing. Congressional hearings are just people asking people who can't answer the question why they're shadow banned on Twitter, right? It's just like, let me play some of my greatest tweets. Let me read them and print them out, read them out loud, and ask people questions about them.
Now, Now, why did the emojis change when I restarted my phone? Is this you know I don't like the updates. I don't like something changes every time the update. I wish they would just keep it. YouTube has more ads now, and I don't like that. Why does YouTube have ads?
I love when they had the CEO of Google in a hearing. They had a bunch of CEOs of I think Mark Zuckerberg was there, but they were kept asking the Google CEO like, "Why are my fundraising emails going to my grandma's spam box on Gmail? Am I?" And so it was. They were like, if you Googled my name before, the first thing that came up was some far right wing blog, and they're like, and now if you search it doesn't come up anymore. What's that about? Are you targeting me? And it's like you're asking the CEO of Google, whose job is pretty much nothing, how to work your Gmail. You're just handing your phone to him and asking him how to schedule an email to send at a certain time. Like, that's what congressional hearings are now. That's what we're fucking doing with our lives.
God bless those people who walked out, who work for Congress people, because all they would be doing otherwise, instead of calling for a ceasefire and power for good, would be like printing PDF.
Right.
It would just be like converting docs to PDFs and Excels to CSV and deleting dick.
Speaking of dick pics, Anthony Weiner. I've been thinking about him a lot lately.
Send us home. Send us home. What's that? Oh, we just got rated by I think everyone.
Yeah, thank you everybody for the raid. It's crazy that you're coming in right at the end of things, but it's sad. Like, and this is a hill I'll die on. It is Carlos Danger, aka Anthony Weiner's fault that Hillary lost the election. It's his fault. She lost in 2016 because of him. 100%.
Because the whole look into Anthony Weiner, because of the relationship to Huma Abedin, and through Huma Abedin, who was working with Hillary Clinton.
Her right-hand woman.
They found out about the illicit server issues and all of that stuff. Like, it's big mistakes. Big mistakes. That was the other joke I was gonna make. You were talking. Well, two jokes. You kept mentioning the fake IDF photo where they had like Mark Wayne Mullen had more. I was like, yo, right. What are our tax dollars doing? They're Christmas cards for conservative politicians that have more guns than apparently Hamas does in that hospital.
Right. That they're storing again next to the MRI machine. Like, it's the laziest. Did you see the video of them passing those medical supplies boxes that had in English printed out on every side of the box? Medical supplies written in English. They're passing them down this like goofy photo op line. There's nothing in those fucking boxes. I've never seen prop boxes not with weights inside of them. And these motherfuckers are like with one finger tossing the box over to the next person. Like, just truly the laziest propaganda you could possibly be doing.
This is like elementary school kid age summer play level. Like you gotta sell me a little. You can't oversell it. You can't like serve a plate of pasta and like the plate has a post-it that says pasta, and you're at a restaurant that says pasta. Like you can't. You gotta give us some. Use your brains a little.
Right. Also, they don't need most of the things that they're supposedly giving them. They're like, oh, we're giving them ventilators. Elon Musk is following up on his promise and providing 6 ventilators. And we're giving them dialysis machines. It's like, they have those. What they need is fucking electricity, and to not have IDF soldiers shooting into the windows and now inside of the hospital.
You can't act like they weren't. Last two things I can't go stream without clarifying. I was not someone in the YouTube chat said, Benjamin Morrill don't give Gavin Newsom anything he's not based. No, I'm not saying that. He's been
Fuck
very,
Gavin
very.
Newsom.
No. Well, actually, Gavin Newsom fucked his best friend. I'm serious. Google it. He became San Francisco mayor for a reason, and it wasn't because he was nice to his best friend who was saying anything. I'm just saying Google. Was also used to be Jenk's coworker because he used to have a show on. So Al Gore's some progressive billionaire, please give it.
Right.
But no, this is not an endorsement of Gavin Newsom. Not endorsing Gavin Newsom. He's one of the stronger Democrats field if he were to run. Like if Joe Biden suddenly to run for whatever, and definitely. But that's more damning of the Democratic field.
Right.
Not a great.
But it was just like one of those moments where it's like the worst person just said something that was true. Like,
which we've gotten a lot of.
Yeah, he was absolutely right about Ron DeSantis falling for the bait. I do know, actually. I was going to say, I don't know who's running his campaign. I do. There are people who've never run any campaigns before running Ron DeSantis's campaigns. It's neo-Nazis running his campaigns. It's people who post, Nazi symbols in official campaign videos. Like, and of course they don't know what they're doing. So they're like, sure, you can't look like a pussy. You gotta answer the call for the debate. You can't look like a bitch, Ron. You've already made yourself look like one time and time again.
Are you gonna let Gavin Newsom Donald Trump you? Are you gonna let Gavin Newsom fuck your wife?
Right?
No, I want to see a debate between DeSantis's campaign manager and Vivek Ramaswamy campaign. We would learn racial,
right. Right. People younger than us would teach us racial slurs that haven't been said since the 1700s. Like, insane.
And on that positive note, thank you all for catching the ladder. And see that this is the fun stuff you're missing. More guests on Power Report when we're earlier on. But yes, happy Friday to you all. Please check out Ravana and everything she's doing. Leave me alone unless it's Thursday or Sunday and I'm streaming. I'm going to be streaming a lot. Especially I took time off of work exclusively so I can. So but I'm sorry. I have to end. Several videos ago, I sent a super chat which was apparently too close to the truth, as Dan felt compelled to admit. He doubtlessly hoped that the truth would once again be forgotten. History will judge whether he was correct, but I only concern myself with what I can control. With the hard-won truth that has been given to me, Dan is a cyborg, or perhaps some cybernetic intelligence that inhabits our. I am called Dan from. Go to Dan from the net to see all the things I'm doing. Place. Thank you all for watching and listening. Please have a happy Friday and weekend. Touch grass, be safe, be kind to yourselves. Don't copiously get high on any drugs or alcohol. Sign. Yeah. Bye.